Good evening, everyone. I'll now call the meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Roll call: McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia. Johnson.
Here.
Kane. Markley.
Here.
Walters.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Holland.
Here. This evening, the invocation is being given by Reverend George Kemper of Welborn Community Church. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, most gracious Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time to come together and to do our best to resolve our community's issues. Even though we may be of diverse opinion, Lord, give us peace, vision, and understanding. For these things we ask in your Son's holy name. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend, for being here tonight. I do want to recognize some persons in attendance tonight. Former Commissioner Joe Vaught is here. Mr. Vaught, good to have you, though it's unusual to see you on the first row instead of the last row. So we'll try to adjust accordingly. Also, BPU board member Jeff Bryant is here. Mr. Bryant, good to see you. And the mayor of Lake Quivira, Mike Olson, is here. Welcome. All right. Before I ask the clerk for revisions, I would like to call upon our assistant county administrator to make an announcement. Ms. Munt? So, Melissa Sieben. I thought that was a typo. Congratulations on your wedding as well.
All right, thank you very much. I'm still confused by it as well. Well, Mayor and Commission, tonight I'm here very proudly to announce that an announcement was sent to us yesterday from HUD, and in their efforts to keep families and their children safe from lead-based paint and other health hazards and safety hazards in our communities across the United States, HUD has awarded $127 million to 48 states and local government agencies. Well, we're here tonight because the Community Development Department, in partnership with Wyandotte County Health Department, received a total of $1.65 million to work on lead-based paint in our community over the next 3 years. The grant will seek to reduce lead and provide healthy home interventions in 75 housing units in a target area, and to increase awareness of lead poisoning and prevention throughout community outreach education targeted at over 2,000 parents, children, and residents annually, for a total of 6,000 individual lives to be reached over the next 3 years. The individuals working on this grant that are here tonight, not all of them are here tonight, but the ones that we want to recognize, if you could please just stand up where you're at, are Carrie Neal, Terry Breckheisen, Wilba Miller, and their support team includes Terry Garrison, John Warner, Stephanie Moore, Joe Monslow, and Cece Anderson. These folks took the SOAR initiative that was placed before them in January of this year and sought to receive this funding. And it is an overall goal of, as Commissioner McKiernan pointed out, to get at the things that are underneath the water, that deep part of the iceberg that vex our community. So we're very excited to have this 3-year grant here in place, and I'm really appreciative of the hard work of this team and those that can't be here tonight for getting this large amount of funding for the unified government.
Thank you. I will note the $1.6 million grant, our matching portion is staff time only. There's no cash match for this grant, so it's excellent all the way around. I'll also notice Community College board member J.D. Rios is here as well tonight. Thank you for being here. If all the elected officials will please sit in one place and not scatter yourselves around, it'd be a lot easier to find you. All right, I'll now ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
Yes, there are, Mayor. A blue sheet has been distributed. Under Section 7, under Planning and Zoning Consent Agenda, we have a clerical error. Item number E1 171199, the de-annexation petition. The RFA and agenda stated consideration for a resolution when the request should have considered for 2 ordinances. Under Section 12, Standing Committee Agenda, we also have a clerical error. Item number 3 is 11171160, which is a resolution and agreement. The resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement with Mission, Kansas, referenced the address as 31450 South 28th Street, and it should read 3140 South 28th Street.
Thank you. The clerical error on the item on the consent agenda will not affect its status on the consent agenda. It's not a substantive change. I will now ask, I'll now note there are 2 distinct parts of our meeting tonight. The planning and zoning portion will be handled first, followed by the regular commission meeting. I'll ask everyone at this time to please silence your cell phones for all of our proceedings, and I'll ask the clerk to read the legal statement required for planning and zoning, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor Mark Holland, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Hal Walker, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Murguia, District 3, is unable to be here, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has 3 options. It can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with the statement specifying the reason for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, that matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any members of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any items on the agenda.
For contacts, Commissioner Bynum.
I have had contact with opponents and proponents of SP 2017-21. I have had contact with opponents of SP 2017-33.
Thank you. Commissioner Markley.
I've also had contact with opponents and proponents of SP 2017-21.
Is your microphone on?
Yes, it is. Better.
Better. Thank you.
Additionally, I've had contact, or I should say, there weren't really opponents or proponents, but I've had contact and discussions with individuals regarding the de-annexation petition for Quivira Inc.
All right. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had contact with opponents of SP 2017-21 and attempted to have contact by way of return call with those who proposed that same SP.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker.
SP 2017-21, both proponents and opponents.
Thank you. Commissioner Philbrook.
I've had contact or been contacted by opponents to SP 2017-21.
Thank you. Commissioner McKiernan.
Same for me. SP 2017-21, proponents and opponents.
I will also identify 2017-21. Proponents have talked to me. Commissioner Johnson.
The same thing for SP 217-21, opponents.
Commissioner Kane.
Same thing, Mayor.
Thank you.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone applications, item number 13131, Michael J. Ronenbaum. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District for cattle and hay at 10128 Nelson Lane, recommended for approval. Item 2, 3142, Alexis Rivera. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to RP4 Plant Garden Apartment District for 4 multifamily units in 1 building at 2000 North 67th Street, recommended for approval. Special use permit applications, item 1, SP 2017-21, Terry Williams with Reentry Development, Inc., special use permit for a federal residential reentry program housing 85 individuals in transitional housing at 925 Sunshine Road, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2017-22, Michael and Maria Johnson, renewal of a special use permit for an event hall, specialty dress shop, and office space storage at 733 through 735 Minnesota Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 3, SP 2017-33, Carrie Hodgkinson with Earth Citizen Farm, home occupation special use permit for an urban farm at 419 South 81st Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 4, SP 2017-34, Melissa Alderman with Advanced Auto, renewal of a special use permit for a parking lot at 21 South 18th Street in conjunction with Advanced Auto Port Store at 1 South 18th Street, recommended for approval 2 years. Item 5, SP 2017-35, Carmen Cabaya Garcia with El Tenedor, KC LLC, special use permit for the temporary use of land to park a food truck at 2932 South 8th Terrace, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 6, SP 2017-39 is being withdrawn by the petitioner. Item 7, SP 2017-40, Jeff Stepney with Joe's Kansas City Barbecue, Inc., renewal of a special use permit revising previously approved application to lease parking to a neighboring business at 4620 Mission Road, recommended for approval for 2 years. Vacation applications, item 1 is number A 2017-5, Will Anderson with BHC Roads, vacation of an alley at 17 North James Street, recommended for approval. Item 2, SA 2017-6, Will Anderson with BHC Roads, vacation of a street and alley at 1101 South 9th Street, recommended for approval. Master Plan Amendment Application, Item 1, MP 2017-6, Alexis Rivera, Master Plan Amendment with Low Density Residential to Medium Density Residential at 2000 North 67th Street, recommended for approval. Item E, de-annexation petition, De-annexation petition 2017-1, MP 17409 through 0003, Quivira Inc. and the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Two ordinances excluding the following properties from the city limits of Kansas City, Kansas: 3025 South 78th Street, 7910 Holiday Drive, and 7909 Holiday Drive. Recommended for approval. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
All right, I would like to invite anyone, any commissioner, staff member, or anyone in attendance tonight who would like to remove an item from consent to please move forward to the microphone at this time to ask for an item to be set aside. Any item not set aside will be voted on by a single vote. I'll start with Commissioner Philbrook.
Thank you. I want item number 3142 and number MP 2017-6.
Let me find the second one. MP 20, those two are tied together, so one will necessitate the other. Thank you, they will be set aside.
Move for approval for all remaining items.
All right.
Second.
Is there any other, sir, did you want to set an item aside? Okay, come to the microphone, please, and state your name.
Got a motion and second on the floor.
My name is Gary Shaw, 4628 Mission Road, and I would like you to set aside SP 17402-00034.
That's letter B4, SP 201734, the advanced auto one.
No, it should be for Kansas City Barbecue.
I'm sorry, B7 2017-40. Just that one for the Joe's Kansas City?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that will be set aside.
Thank you.
Steve Daly with the Fairfax Industrial Association. I would request to set aside 2017-21.
All right, that will be set aside. All right, let the record show no one else moving to set an item aside. The remaining items are properly before us. Roll call.
Roll call: McKiernan,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, before we move on to the next item, I do want to make note, we have a Mayor Olson in attendance today from Lake Quivira, and this has been a great partnership to work on this de-annexation. The de-annexation will take effect if and when Lake Quivira takes action to annex it, so there will not be non-annexed property in our county. It will still receive county taxes, but I'm very hopeful, particularly for the school district of Turner School District, that any development that Lake Quivira does on that will be a direct benefit to our county and to our school district. So thank you for the partnership in our city, and we appreciate all 11 residences in Wyandotte County from Lake Quivira. So thank you very much for being here tonight. All right. That brings us to the first item that was set aside. It is actually two items. It's Alexis Rivera. Number A2 and D1 are tied together. One is a master plan amendment, and the other is a change of zone. They are both recommended for approval. I will ask Ms. Rivera to come forward if she is here, if you would like to make presentation.
Mayor, the change of zone is actually recommended for denial. The master plan is for approval, and the change of zone is for denial.
So my question is I would like some more information on what's going on with this.
Okay.
It seems kind of a slurry of things, and I want to understand it a little bit better.
Okay, let me clarify this. A2, number 3142, it shows in our book recommended for approval.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm thinking of the non-consent item. You're correct. My apologies.
Okay, both of these items are on consent.
Yes. For approval.
For approval, thank you. All right, that brings us to Ms. Rivera. You're welcome to make presentation if you would like.
Hi, my name is Alexis Rivera. I'm the owner of 2000 North 67th Street. based on we kept digging into the situation on the property. We found out the first owner, and he was a builder. The building was built in 1951, and it was the base who started, and then he built up. And that was the whole situation with the building. When I bought it, I got it a license for rental, and I got it for 5 years. When they did the revision, it came up that it was zoned improperly. But on the first visit that I got for licensing, it passed. That's why I didn't understood why now that I got the 5-year revision, that came up that it was not zoned properly, because it passed the first inspection, and the building is being as is since 1951. The building was done in 1951, the basement, and in 1966, based on the owner. This is a guy that built it and owned it for the first time. In 1966, he built the top of that building. And again, I went to get the licensing 5 years ago. Everything was approved. And 5 years later, when I got the re-inspection, I get the surprise that it wasn't zoned properly. That's why I don't understand why 5 years ago it didn't came up. And it's my home. I live there with my wife and my kids and my mom. It's our home. Plus, we got, obviously, the top as a rental, because I got it with family members, but they didn't like the weather in Kansas City, so on, and everybody started moving out. So I ended up with a building with rooms, so I started using it as a rental. But like I said, I got it inspected. It passed 5 years ago. When I got their inspection for the renewal, that's when all this happened.
All right, I'm going to ask our staff, Mr. Richardson. So he had this approved for rental as a fourplex.
As a duplex, not as a 2 units were approved, not 4 units.
And in my, I'm sorry, I rented as a duplex because I live in the basement, so the permit that I asked for a duplex, and they visit me. So why that didn't came up in that moment? Because I was renting a duplex, I'm not renting everything. I live underneath, and the rentals are
So
above.
it's been used as a duplex, but now he wants to zone it as a fourplex? Help me understand what's Mr. Richardson.
So it was approved as a duplex many years ago. At some point, there were additional units converted. And so he bought it after the units were converted, did not realize that.
But the building was in 1951 built, and the basement was the first thing by this is the guy
sir,
that built it.
I got it. I'm going to ask our staff to speak for a minute. So it was converted to a fourplex sometime in the past.
Correct.
And now they're coming for the zoning, the master plan amendment and the zoning for a fourplex.
Correct.
Okay. And that's your request. You want it to be a fourplex, not a duplex?
Well, it's been since 1951, that building. I haven't done anything. Just
No, I understand the
fix it.
history. I'm asking you, your request is for it to be a fourplex.
Yes, because like I said, that's our home.
I understand. It makes a difference, because if you're asking for it to be a duplex, that's a different ask from it to be a fourplex. But your request is for a fourplex, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to, you all are welcome to have a seat in the front row. I'm going to open up the public hearing, and then I'll open it up to the commissioners afterwards. I will ask if anyone in attendance tonight would like to speak in support of this application. If anyone would like to speak in support, please come to the microphone at this time. Let the record show no one is coming to the microphone to speak. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this application tonight? Let the record show I see no one coming forward to speak in opposition. I will now close the public hearing, and I'll open it up to our commission for discussion. Commissioner Walker. Can you turn on your microphone, sir?
I'm troubled that this is even in front of us at this point, because it's, what's the French word, fait complete? It's been done for 40 years, and now we're being asked really just to confirm what's already an existing fact. I'm going to move for approval of the Planning Commission's recommendation.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner, you pulled this off. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a lot of them.
Okay.
So I looked at the drawings that were given to us, and it really looks more like a threeplex. It looks like a single unit downstairs from the drawings we got. Can you say something about that, Rob?
There's a, on the, I believe it's the south end of the house, there's a separate unit that you can access from the outside, and they rent that unit separately.
So
It's a small unit. It's like almost a single room occupancy
Okay.
type of unit on that end.
Okay, then the other questions are, did I read properly that you have some other stipulations that they're gonna have to come in line with to make this
Correct.
completely compliant?
All that construction will have to be inspected by building inspections.
So we're okay, even though it was built in 51, okay, and
Well-
we don't have any information about how things were
Well,
done between then and now.
Well, but the fourplex unit wasn't done then. It was done after 1998 when it was issued a duplex license.
Okay,
When it was inspected and done as a duplex in 1998. We believe it's been since that time that it was converted to a fourplex.
okay. So basically, you're doing due diligence to make sure that it's safe,
Yes,
is what we're coming down to on
because
this.
it would appear that none of the improvements were done with the benefit of permits and inspections, and we have 4 families living in a unit that may have electrical, gas, other issues.
Thank you. Well, that was my major concern when I was reading through this about that. So you're going to follow up on this, and we're going to make sure that it's inspected and everything's okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
All right. I think we're there already, so I'll skip the vote on the call for the question and go straight to the vote on the item. It is moved for approval in agreement with the item. I would like to ask legal, can we take a single action on both of these items, or do they require separate votes? If the votes are the same, if everyone intends to vote the same. All right. If everyone's on their best behavior, we can do this once. There's
Question first?
roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
No.
No? The vote is 7-2. Passes.
The vote is 7-2. It is approved. It took 6 votes to approve. Is that correct? It is approved. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item B1, SP 2017-21, the Reentry Development Incorporated that has been pulled from the position or from the consent agenda. I'll ask the applicant to come forward and make application. While the applicant is coming forward, Mr. Richardson, do you have any preliminary presentation on this?
No, sir. It's recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
My name is Terry Williams. I reside in Maumelle, Arkansas. I am the Deputy Executive Director of an organization called City of Faith Residential Reentry in Little Rock. I'm also the Executive Director of Reentry Development, which is the company I'm representing that's coming before you now. I am a Federal Bureau of Prisons contractor, and I have responded to an RFP sent out by the Bureau of Prisons to provide transitional housing to federal inmates coming out of prison in this area. The proposed property that we're looking at is 925 Sunshine Drive. I believe I sent questions that were proposed to me by 2 of your constituents, and I answered those questions, and in those questions it was asked why this property. There are 3 reasons why we chose 925 Sunshine Road. Number 1 is it's not close to residential. It's not close to a residential area that no one actually lives close by. There is a requirement that we be within a mile of a bus stop, and the bus stop is right there on the corner, and plus the employment opportunities that would be available to our people coming out of prison. These are people who have about 6 months left on their sentence, and they will be residing there for probably about 3 months until they go on home confinement. There will be 85 people that will be living there. max. It'll never be more than 85 people. We will also be supervising 45 people out in the community who are on home confinement. If you have any questions for me, feel free.
Okay, what I'll do before we take questions, we will open up the public hearing. So you're welcome to have a seat there. And after the public hearing, if you would like to, you will have an opportunity, ma'am. Ma'am, after the public hearing, you'll have an opportunity to make any summative comment you might like to make as the applicant. I will remind us for a public hearing, if you have comments, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and you will be timed by the clerk, and you'll be given a warning at the 2-minute point. So I will ask now if anyone would like to speak in favor of this development to please come to the microphone at this time. Anyone to speak in favor?
Hello, good evening. My name's Tony Privatira. I'm the owner of 925 Sunshine in Fairfax, along with 800 Sunshine, which is across the street, along with 655 Sunshine, which is a block away, 3210 North 7th Street, 3101 North 7th Street, 8892 Sunshine, 3210 Fiberglass Road, 3100 Fairfax Traffic Way, 3200 Fairfax Traffic Way, and 101 Kindleberger. Some of you know me, some of you do not. I sit on a variety of committees where here in Wyandotte County, our goal is to try to bring outside companies to our community. This particular company does not make Cheez-Its. They don't make automobiles. They don't make fiberglass or distribute lumber or build something for the public. What I do as a developer is I take old properties and I try to put them back into circulation. This particular company is going to take people and put them back into circulation. I think it's a perfect fit for our area. I had several businesses in Fairfax come to me privately and state that darn near close to 40% of their workforce comes from federal prison release programs. So I think it's a very good fit. So I'm here in support.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor?
Good evening. Rosanna Privateer Biondo, also one of the owners of 925 Sunshine, and we are also here in support. I'm going to make it short. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carl Privatira. I'm also one of the owners of the Sunshine facility, and I am here in support.
And I am Joe Privatira, one of the owners, and I am also in support.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in support?
How y'all doing today? My name is Stephen James. I'm a member of the community, and I spoke with Terry many times since she's come up here to try to open up this reentry program here in Kansas. Why would we not want a reentry program near so these people can be near their family? This is going to bring money back into our infrastructure because it's actually helping these individuals to be closer to jobs. This is going to help them be a better person out here in this community instead of putting them someplace like in the West Bottoms where there is nothing down there. And look at Fairfax as it is right now. There's not much money coming through there. Most of the businesses have left out of Fairfax as it is right now. You had envelope companies and candle companies in the last 10, 15 years that just rooted it up and left up out of there. You had a barrel company that left out of there. You had so many things leave out of this area that we need someone to come down there and take this building right now before it looks like the rest of the buildings down there in the Fairfax district. This is going to help us a whole lot as a community and as our infrastructure in the area. And I'm going for Terry Williams to open up this reentry program here in Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Spencer Parsons. I'm a resident of a legally zoned residence in the West Bottoms at 1417 West 11th Street. I live there with my 7-year-old daughter. My brother and I have about $2 million worth of investment in the neighborhood, about 200,000 square feet, including a building on the Kansas side of State Line Road. We're redeveloping, bringing small community-based businesses to the West Bottoms. I just want to express that personally, in the 5 years I've lived there, not once have I had an issue with anything happening at the correctional facility at 651 Mulberry Street. I'm also a member of the Historic West Bottoms Association and the West Bottoms Business District Association. I know the landowners, developers working in the neighborhood, talk to my neighbors regularly, and not once have I been made aware of anyone having issues with that facility. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor? Let the record show no one else is speaking and is moving forward to speak in favor. I will ask if you are here, I would ask all the people who are in favor to, and I'll do the same for those who are against. If you are in favor of this, whether you spoke or not, if you would please stand so the commission can get an idea of the support. Thank you very much. You may be seated. And now I'll open it up to those who are opposed. If you're opposed to this development, please come forward to the microphone at this time.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Wyatt. I live at 359 Troop, not too far from where Fairfax is. And then there's Juniper Gardens also, right behind it also. And I believe in second chances for people because most of our people in our family probably been to jail or to prison. So I believe in second chances. But I think if we need some redevelopment in the area with rooftops, a grocery store, but not a halfway house. And I think that also a lot of businesses probably moved out of Fairfax because they didn't fix them up. They went to Johnson County. So if you don't fix your business up, then they move out. Also, I think that the mayor said he don't build grocery stores, but he don't build rooftop either for the Northeast area. So, I think that's a need that we have, and it's not a halfway house. We want redevelopment. That's what we need in the area, east of 635. Also, when they tore those houses down in Northeast area, I don't think they removed the whole house out of there. They just put them in the ground, so nobody wants to come down there and build because they got to move those houses out of the ground, and that's going to be more expensive. So I think that's another problem we have also in the area. And what the UG is concerned about is money, because how much money you going to get for each one of those persons housed in the halfway house is a lot of money. It's not about our neighborhoods that's going to reap the money, but it's the UG. So I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor, so where they spending the money at? Out west. So send the halfway house out west. Also, you said 100 miles for inmates.
1 minute,
the
ma'am.
100 miles isn't
1
close
minute.
to where we are. The 100 miles is 100 miles. That's not prisoners coming home, So I'm not in favor of it, and that's my reasons. And if you live down here, you wouldn't want them in your neighborhood, and you don't want them out west at the Legend where you live. So I'm speaking about where I live. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
There are some copies of a letter that we sent out earlier. I don't know if you all had a chance to get them. I'm going to make my presentation as fast as I can. So if you want to follow along with this letter, Melissa Clark wrote it. She's the executive director, couldn't be here tonight. She's on vacation. I'm Steve Daly with the Fairfax Industrial Association, so I'll just get started reading the letter, if you don't mind. We would like to provide an update on recent activities regarding this application. Our association continues to receive calls and emails from businesses in the Fairfax District in opposition to this permit. As you are all aware, the Fairfax District is comprised of over 120 businesses, $4+ billion in investment, and 10,000 employees. We hope that you consider our business district to be as much of your community as your residential neighborhoods by taking note of our concerns with this special use permit. I have included with this letter a petition with well over 400 signatures of business owners and employees that are opposed to this permit. It should be pointed out that many others have voiced their opposition privately to individual FIA board members, but for varying reasons prefer not to express themselves publicly. Unfortunately, she mentioned she's out of town and I would be taking her place, so I'll go on to the next paragraph. Although we all understand and agree that facilities of this nature are needed, we feel that the northeast section, residential and business of Wyandotte County, already fights a negative perception, and adding another program like this will add to that negative perception. The FIA neighborhood groups, the FIA neighborhood groups, the UG and others in the northeast area are working hard to turn this perception around. We feel this would be a real setback to our efforts. This facility can be placed anywhere within 100 miles of this area. Can we not find an area that would be a good fit that is not already facing our challenges? We also ask that you consider the ramifications, or unintended consequences, I should say, of issuing this permit with regard to the economic impact of having a federal prisoner transitional facility in Fairfax. We have spoken with some major developers in Kansas City, and they have said it will clearly be a detriment when marketing our district to businesses who are looking to locate here. Realtors tell us that they would be obligated to disclose that the federal prisoner facility is here,
sir.
and warn us that if it be a real obstacle for attracting new businesses, that it would be. Fairfax District is an old district. The warehouse buildings have low ceilings that many businesses do not want, and our infrastructure needs much improvement. These are already obstacles in attracting businesses. So I'll just get to the point here on page 2. Given the strong opposition from Fairfax businesses and employees and the perceived adverse economic and security impact among our constituents, developers, and real estate firms, we respectfully ask that you vote to deny the special use permit tonight. If, however, you are not comfortable voting to deny the permit tonight, the FIA asks that you not approve it, but send the application back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, where representatives of the Fairfax Industrial District, Reentry Development, and the Planning and Zoning Commission can try to find ways to make our businesses more comfortable with this facility. If you choose to approve of the special use permit tonight, we ask...
Your time is up, sir.
You can read the rest.
Thank you.
Okay.
You may finish your sentence.
Thank you. I'll just finish this last paragraph. If you choose to approve of the special use permit tonight, we ask at the very least that a stipulation be added that any prisoner from this facility seeking employment in Fairfax will not be permitted to walk the streets of Fairfax and knock on doors asking for job application, and that the prisoners must have an appointment set up in advance with the company they are seeking a position with and be escorted to that business by reentry staff members in reentry vehicles, or arrangements can be made with the businesses offering employment to coordinate prisoner transportation with the reentry facility. And then 2, I would add one other stipulation, and that would be once an occupation or a job is secured, that the same kind of escorting be applied to that as well, not just for job seeking, but also to and from the work job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Joe Vaught. I live at 9231 Leavenworth Road. I'd like to thank the mayor for my recognition as a former commissioner. And at 80 years old and have done a lot of things in my life, that was one of the best things I ever did.
The former part or the commissioner part?
The commissioner part.
Okay.
The former was pretty good too. I'm against this because I want to tell you the first thing is the inaccuracy of that photo there. Because if you'll move that so that you show a lot more southern part of that, you'll see that it encompasses almost within 1.5 miles of there, almost all of Quindaro. It goes over to 18th Street in 1.5 miles. It goes further south than Quindaro. It includes just an enormous amount of the northeast section, which is residential. So she falsely said that they picked this site because there wasn't any residential around there. There's a lot of residential around there, including what is the name of that? Parkwood Park, which is frequented by not only the citizens there, but a lot of children there. So I think it's very important that you look at, we're trying to improve the northeast section, make it better, and I don't know how you do that and bring in this type of a operation into this community. None of us would like to have it. I don't care if you're in Turner or Piper or any place else. It wouldn't get a vote from you, and it shouldn't get a vote here just because that's in the northeast section. That's an important part of our city. As a commercial real estate broker, I have sold a lot of property, millions of dollars worth of property in that area. I can tell you as a commercial real estate broker and also as past chairman of the Kansas Real Estate Commission, and I'm still a member of that I'm obligated to tell somebody if they're looking at a piece of property in Fairfax that this type of an operation is there, because that's going to affect how they can employ people and how they feel about the area.
You have
So-
1 minute, sir.
Pardon?
1 minute.
And then I have one question for the lady that's presented this, and that is, what is the actual number of employees that will be there from 10 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock in the morning? We were told a figure, and then at the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was a different figure. I want to know, all these employees that have something to do with that, I don't think are going to be there from 10 to 5, and I think that's important. Thank
Okay.
you.
We'll have the applicant answer that question following the public hearing.
Good evening. My name is Don James. I'm a second-generation owner of a family business that celebrated our 50th year in 2016. Our address is 3225 Harvester Road, and we are in the Fairfax district of Kansas City, Kansas. I want to address the federal halfway house proposal in a personal, more human way. You see, after 2011, fighting through the recession, I had to redefine my business. I'm sure the way others in this room may have done. We were cash poor, yet to survive, we needed to grow our business in a big way or go home. So I did what any good business owner would do. I created a strong business plan and sat down with my wife and said I wanted to invest our life savings in a warehouse that could accommodate our growth, in facilities and equipment to do so. And, the business plan worked. Our business is thriving. We've doubled our workforce. Things are going well. But I also told her that at some point in the future, we should be able to sell that property and return our life savings back to the bank. And I'm not so sure that if this goes through, that could really happen. And looking at human nature, if anybody in this room was looking to buy a facility for their business, and you had the choice between the Fairfax district with a federal reentry program with 85 attendants, a block from your facility, or some other location in Kansas City, would you move to Fairfax? And I know that when I bought my building 5 years ago, if I was faced with that decision, the answer would be no. And if the answer is no, the only way that I would even consider it is that the facility was at a great discount, okay? And, I'm a little upset that, here we are growing a family business, living the American dream,
You have
and
1
it's being
minute, sir.
jeopardized by decisions, of others. I also wanted to let you know that it is our company policy that we will not hire somebody with a federal record, a criminal record. So we will not be hiring anybody that comes out of that facility. I'm all about people reentering and bettering themselves, but I've been through it before. I've tried it before. I've been burned. I won't do it again. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Victor Harris. I live at 2546 North 17th Street, KCK 66104. I'm the president of OCP Neighborhood Association. Our borders are 18th Street, east to 13, parallel to Quindaro. In that area, we have a total of 4 halfway houses. We have one at 2100 North 13th Street called the Salome House. Now, if it's not a reentry, it seems to be one. We have the Love Fellowship reentry, which is located at Cisnut and Quindaro. We have the Family Life reentry at 27 and Roswell. We have another one that's being used, but I think it's closed. I haven't seen any activity that I've been monitoring, but haven't seen any. But it's called the Hope House on 18th Street. So just within that area, there's a total of 3.5 halfway houses. 3.5 halfway houses. And I'm talking about in less than 2 or 3 miles. I wouldn't even give it 2 or 3 miles. I'm not against reentry because as a young man that I have helped, matter of fact, one of them I helped, he's a manager at Panera Bread right now. He was part of reentry that I helped him with. And I have family members that's going to need reentry when they come back. So I'm not saying reentry being against it. What I'm saying is location, location, location. Why do we have to continue having these halfway facilities in the northeast area? Why we can't pack them up and move them out west? Can we move them south? Why we have to continue moving them in the northeast area? So here's number 5 come. Number 5, and their study come. Is there going to be a 6? Is it going to be a 7? When is it going to stop that these halfway facilities stop coming in the northeast area?
You have 1 minute, sir.
I have children that's grown, but I have grandbabies. And one of them in the facility, we was told by a police sergeant that I cannot find out who is in that facility. And my grandbabies have to come up my street from 17th to go to Quindaro to stop at Mr. Wilson and get some candy. But I have no idea who's hanging outside that building because it's not, it's the privacy. I'm not allowed to find out. So all I'm just asking is, Mayor and the commissioners, find another location. That's all. I am not against these individuals coming out. Just find another location and not put it in the northeast area. That's all I ask for. I will support it, vote for it, whatever I need to do, but just move it to a different location. We have enough. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chip Buckner. I live in Overland Park. I am employed by Bartlett Grain Company, which owns, you see those little circles up there, those are our grain bins. We believe in investment in the area. We believe in jobs. We've been in Fairfax for over 60 years. We own 2 grain elevators. We'd like to stay. We'd like to keep people employed and keep people coming to the Fairfax area. Most of what I want to say has already been said. We have some concern. You know the statistics better than I do. There is some percentage, and I'm going to pull 30% out of the air, of the people that are in the halfway house are going to re-enter the criminal justice system. We would rather not. 30% of the people who are there now are not in part of the criminal justice system, and you're putting more traffic and you're giving us an increased risk of criminal activity in the area, and we're nervous about it. We love jobs, we love investment. We may not own the same square footage as the Privatera family, but I bet we've got at least as much investment. We would ask you to put this somewhere else.
My name is Joe McCoy, and I've owned 2 buildings in Fairfax. Had one building for 20 years that we redid at 2850 Fairfax Traffic Way. So we were right there at Quindaro and Fairfax. And when we moved in 1990, it wasn't too bad, but about 2000, it was pretty tough down in Fairfax. We had a guy assaulted in the front parking lot, so we had to put everybody in the back and fence it in. Then they were crawling through the fences and breaking the doors off of the cars and stealing stuff. They finally had to bring all the night shift, because we had 150 employees, had to bring the night shift park inside the building because we had a ramp. And at that time, one thing good happened. The city said, you know, we got to stop this down there. And we had a lot of police protection. You know what? All the problems went away. And if this is passed, that would be something that I think everybody down there would want. We would need, and at one time there was extra cars designated only for Fairfax. That's not the case now. When somebody down there has to call somebody. And I think if you pass it, this would be something that you would need to look into to solve some of the healing with the people down there. But it was dangerous down in Fairfax at that time, and the city did something about it. Sold that building 10 years ago, had another business in Kansas City, Kansas, and 3 years ago I bought another building in Fairfax. We're at 3130 Brinkerhoff, and we love it, and we put a lot of money in it. Now, the ladies in my office are not very happy about this because I was in Armourdale, and we had to have locks on the door so people didn't come in panhandling and doing things. And they were the ones who really were upset about this. Whatever's going to be done is going to be done, whether you approve or whatever. But the one thing that would sure make everybody feel a lot better if there was more protection down in the Fairfax area. Just a car rolling around at night like they used to do. But when they took that away, everybody felt a little uneasy. Now, being part of, I haven't had a single problem in our building. We're very happy down there.
Now, 1 minute, sir.
And I want to thank you people. You're helping the area. You're helping all of our investments. So whether this goes one way or the other, but I think Fairfax is really coming back. There's 3 new buildings or businesses down the street from us. Our street is all full with one building, and they just cleaned it up. So I'm up on Fairfax, but we need to protect the people down there. So whatever you do, if you do approve it, you need to really make sure you put some police down there. You got to do something to make everybody feel better. That's it. Thank you.
My name is Rashida Hamby, and I live at 6232 Troop. A few weeks ago, commissioners in attendance tonight hosted a meeting asking a couple hundred Wyandotte County residents what their vision was for Wyandotte County, especially the northeast side of town, and not one resident said another halfway house. When we were discussing development in another part of town, concerns about why we can't get the type of development out west or even now out south was that we didn't have the right median income, we had higher crime levels, we had blighted communities. And now here we are again, using those same excuses as to why we should allow another halfway house. I guess my question is, what vision for Wyandotte County are we supposed to have if we allow people that don't live within our districts to determine our future? I understand that everyone deserves a second chance. I'm a product of a mother who often visited halfway houses, but her life didn't change, and she didn't fully reach the woman she is today until she left and saw better for herself. So we're asked now to accept that 85 people may become better citizens by being in the same environment that put them there. Studies show that people who commit crimes, people who grow up and are not model citizens are often because of the society in which they were raised. So now we're supposed to continue to allow another halfway house into the same quote-unquote crime-ridden community that cannot get a grocery store. Please help me make sense. If this is about dollars, then I see your point. But if it's about cents, then I'm not getting it. So
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
show me a committed local government to northeast side of town. You say that because of development, well, I see a lot of business owners here that are asking for something. Give them a tax plan, give them incentives to do more. Give them the same incentives or half of the incentives that you give out west. Maybe we'll get more development. You talk about housing, we'll give people incentives, create programs to which they can buy homes or do new construction from homes. But to suggest a halfway house in this same crime-ridden community just doesn't make sense. So I'm asking you, The same people that hosted this meeting and had over 100 people talk about their goals and dreams of Wyandotte County, in which not one person said a halfway house. Make this make sense. Why should I be here if this is all we have to offer for development? Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Elnora Tellis Jefferson. I'm a resident of Kansas City, Kansas, born and raised in what is known as the North End, a beloved piece of geography in northeast Wyandotte County. I come before you to stand in opposition of the special permit in its current form because, and only because, the application could stand and begs for additional benefits, many of which we've heard about and spoken by the last person for sure. The landscape in the Northeast does not need repeating. You know it, and that's the reason that you approved the allocation or the Northeast Master Plan. So obviously there's something on the drawing board to add infrastructure, to add security, to add model cities, to add something that's going to improve that area. The question is when, and I'm sure that it's coming. But in the meantime, this application appears. So in my effort to understand and grapple with the complexities in this subject, I held and hosted various conversations with people from the applicant, Ms. Terry Williams, who I find exceptional in what she's doing, the executive director of Fairfax Industrial District, residents, neighborhood leaders, a developer of record of a nearby housing development, the Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority, members of the faith-based communities, as well as social service agencies that serve the Hispanic and non-Hispanic, the veteran, homeless, jobless, and returning citizens from local state prisons, as well as those agencies that labor to prevent imprisonment, and with commercial and residential realtors. From these conversations and observations, I draw the following conclusions. 1, except for those who did not live at the time they committed the crime, the people who are returning are either arrested or they live in our neighborhoods, in our Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County neighborhoods.
You have 1 minute
They are our
now.
brothers, fathers, sons, and next-door neighbors. As such, their successful integration into our society requires a facility with the credentials and testimony that reentry development brings to the table. 2, Reentry Development's proposed Community Relations Board, newsletter, and other communique are welcoming oversight venues to ensure that the transition process is integrated with the quality checkpoints along the way. 2 ministers have already expressed a desire to participate. 3, community service is an integrated component of reentry's program. Perhaps it could serve as a dependable supplement to this commission's appropriation of minor home repair funds. All of with whom I've spoken agreed that reentry's mission is noble, just, and needed. Reentry as operation will also result in additional revenue streams to both private and public sectors. On the other hand, a few thoughts. As evidenced by tonight's comments, while it is applaudable that reentries intentionally chose a location that was not in a residential area with access to jobs and a bus line, the facility's ability to improve the business and bordering neighborhood areas' quality of life begs more attention.
Your time is up, ma'am.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay, thank you very much. Realtors must issue disclosures, as was revealed tonight, to future tenants at halfway houses in the vicinity. How can this facility's presence nullify the negative effect that this disclosure is likely to have? It is said, and we've all heard, that today's progressive companies incorporate social missions in their business plans. Some are known as social entrepreneurs. Is there a way for Fairfax to do that so that to add value to its balance sheet and income statements? 2, Fairfax City cites additional crime, including car theft and trespassing. The bordering neighborhoods remain plagued by petty drug traffic and the strangers that are constantly in and out of neighborhoods. What resources could reentry bring in terms of improved security measures, whether it be lighting or cameras? Are there pockets? There are absolute pockets of pitch darkness in nearby neighborhoods due to the scarcity of housing. What kind of mentoring and education can reentry provide in collaboration with the UG's juvenile justice system and to help deter criminal behavior in youth? What kind of security does the Fairfax Drainage District need in order to feel comfortable with this special permit? Is it possible for a satellite police station to be placed nearby? Interestingly enough, I heard both of these from the comments from Fairfax. That can the program start as a pilot or some type of trial with a cap on the number of residents below the 85-bed minimum? Can reentry's need for professional case management be contracted by existing KCK agencies who are professionally staffed yet challenged by state budget cuts? So I come to you tonight in opposition, in closing, in opposition to the special permit as it stands because and only because I believe the development has the potential to abate existing concerns and to do more to improve the quality of life in the business and residential Northeast communities. We Northeast residents and businesses are accustomed to making lemonade from lemons. What can we do to make a more positive difference while waiting on the implementation of the Northeast Master Plan? I ask that you give this consideration, give this another consideration, whether that is to hold it over or to send it back to the planning committee. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, would anyone else like to speak in opposition? Seeing no one else come to the microphone, I will offer the same offer I gave to those who are speaking in favor. If you would like to stand and show your support, whether you spoke or not, stand and show your opposition, I'd invite you to stand at this time. So noted, thank you. I will now close the public hearing. I will offer the applicant an opportunity to make some response, if you would like, to some of the questions that were asked, and to make a summative statement if you would like to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the concerns, I do. I'm not a stranger to those concerns anywhere I've ever been. So they're easily to, I can answer and address those concerns. As far as, I got a call from the next door neighbor, Mr. McCrae, gotten a couple of calls from him actually saying that he didn't want our people to come knocking on his door to ask for jobs, which I understand. I honor that. I'm a supervisor. I don't like that either. They will only be going where they have appointments. Now, these days, as you know, most jobs are applied for online, and we have a computer lab in Little Rock, at our Little Rock facility, where our guys are allowed to go online, seek jobs online, and it's been very successful that way. That happens more than them just going out. They do not cold call anywhere. We don't allow that. The question was posed to me, do they just walk around and hang out? They don't. They don't do that. Now, this is transitional. These people are coming back to our communities, whether we like it or not. They're coming back. What we provide is a slow transition back into their homes so that they're not dumped on their families with just their shower shoes and their paper suit and $20. We give them an opportunity to have a place to live and a place to establish a release plan, reestablish their ties with their families and with their communities. That's what we provide. Now, when they get there, they're there for, they're in a very restrictive environment. They're only allowed to go to church. They can go to church, their church of their choice, and they can go to work. Once they've done that for a little while, then they're allowed social passes where they can actually go home and have dinner with their families and spend the night on the weekends. And that is a certain amount of hours, and that is a release plan that's been verified by staff and by the probation office. And that is the only place they're allowed to go until they're allowed to go on home confinement, where they will live, but they will be on electronic monitoring until their release date. This is a very closely monitored facility. There are a lot, they spoke of different halfway houses around town. Those are not federally restrictive, overseen facilities. This is one that is going to be in Kansas City somewhere because the the Bureau of Prisons has put the RFP out for service in the Kansas City area. Now, regarding the 100-mile radius, these are people who live within 100 miles of 925 Sunshine Road. Not everybody is from this neighborhood, but they all are from Kansas. They are all returning citizens home. This gives them an opportunity to have a plan in place before they're actually thrown on their families. They're paying restitution, they're paying child support, they are supporting their families. And that is the only reason why we operate, is to see to it that they do that. Now, the projected income for these residents in the coming year, we believe will be roughly $2.5 million. The employees, our staff, the payroll for the annual payroll is projected at $1.2 million. So these are dollars that are going back into your community. We're not there to be a terrible neighbor. We're not there to bring a blight on the neighborhood. We are there to establish something beautiful. I don't know if you got an opportunity to look at our website at cityoffaith.org and seen our facilities. In Louisiana, we have 5 facilities that are old Victorian homes that have been refurbished for our benefit and for the guys that come through. In Little Rock, we have a 10,000 square foot facility in a residential neighborhood. We are neighbors with the Easter Seals Special Housing. They came in after us. We have a daycare right next door to us that came in after us. We are not a scary bunch of people. We bring beauty to the neighborhood. We bring beautiful landscaping. We take care of what we've got, because if they come out and they see something that we take care of, they're going to be more apt to take care of it themselves. And they are required to take care of where they live. Now, this is a program that I have run for 21 years. I know how to do it. I do it very well. The Bureau calls us the best in the business. We are constantly monitored by the BOP. I had a BOP monitoring last week, and we always get superior ratings in every single monitoring. In this particular facility, there will be 1 full monitoring every year that we know the Bureau's coming, and there will be 4 unannounced visits where they just pop in any time of the day or night. I think I sent you all a copy of our statement of work, which is our contract. If we do not adhere strictly to that contract, then we have no contract. The Bureau holds our feet to the fire. Our feet are also held to the fire by our neighbors, which we gladly have that accountability. Our feet are held to the fire by the Federal Probation Office, by the United States Marshal Service, by the local police department. I spoke at length with Deputy Chief Tyrone Garner, who said that he could not come out in favor or against us, but if this award takes place and we are established, they would be more than happy to develop a good working relationship with us in this community. We enjoy a very good working relationship in Monroe, Louisiana, and Little Rock with the police department. There is not a minute that we don't, if we need somebody, they are there right then and there. As far as the Community Relations Board goes, in 1996, we established the very first Community Relations Board that was so successful that the Bureau requires it of every single contract in the United States of America now, probably to the chagrin of a lot of contractors. But we have found that it is a very good tool for communication in the community, and it keeps us transparent, and it keeps us with an open door, and keeps communication between us and our neighbors. And we meet monthly, and we've done that every single month since November of 1996. Now, I have reached out to several members of your community. I'm almost adopt you all. I've almost got your flower tattooed on my back, but I've reached out to several people who might be interested in serving on that Community Relations Board. And I'm hoping that they will take me up on that offer, because I am all about transparency. Now, as far as the gentleman talking about security and shifts, we're used to shift work as, 4 to 12, 4 to midnight, 12 to 8, 8 to 4. During the times that the majority of the people are in-house, Whatever time it comes out to be, will have to be whenever everybody is established in there, and we'll see when that is. We will make sure that there are at least 3 to 4 people working security. During the night, when it's quiet and people are asleep, we have found that it's not necessary to have that many people working security, as we have alarms and we have cameras and we have a lighted parking lot. We will not have razor wire. We will have a beautiful wooden fence. Now, I know I'm on the city council in my city, and we have an ordinance, a fence ordinance. So if you have a fence ordinance, it'll be the height that you require. So given all of these things, I can only tell you, I cannot guarantee that there will not be some knucklehead who does something goofy while they're there. We're their people. I'm sorry, we deal with people. And, unfortunately, there are people involved. But what I can tell you is that in the last 21 years, we have not had any significant incidents. And we have not, crime has actually gone down in our neighborhood because of the increased patrols that we enjoy. Property values have not decreased. As a matter of fact, I just bought an acre of land about 2 years ago and had to pay top dollar for it, and it was right across the street from our residential area, and I built an 8,000 square foot administration building on that site. I was really wishing at that point that property values had gone down, but it cost me a fortune. We keep it quiet. We make sure that people do not meander out front. I don't want them out front for their own safety, and I don't want it to look like a flop house. Our facility in Little Rock is beautiful. It's full of art, local art. We make sure that local artists are on display in our house. We take care of it, and I would implore you, please, to go on that website and see what we know how to do. And that's really the only way we know how to operate, is to bring something absolutely beautiful to the community.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're invited to have a seat. I'm now going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to open it up to the commissioners for comment. Commissioner Walker.
Much of what I wanted to say has been said by Ms. Williams. I look up at Leavenworth and in Lansing, and you drive up K10, K7, K7. Retail businesses abounding on both sides of the roads as you come to Lansing, and then in Leavenworth. Prisons and facilities are huge economic engines. They have a way of creating opportunities. I've often read people in Lansing and Leavenworth feel the safest because anyone who wants to escape from there, the last place they want to hide out at is in Lansing and Leavenworth. Now, whether that's anecdotal or not, I don't know. These are all people that are within 6 months of release. The mayor and I were talking earlier today, just in general, and I don't want to misquote the mayor. He can handle it himself, but every day in Wyandotte County, 800?
I have the numbers.
Would you give them out, please?
We currently have 612 state parolees in Wyandotte County, and we currently have 185 federal parolees living in Wyandotte County, and we have an additional 577 people under community corrections. So we have 1,400 people in Wyandotte County now under court supervision in some capacity.
The point being that every day, walking amongst you, people that can come up to your business and apply for a job, knock on your door, and will not be subject to any of these restrictions that these 85 people, it's been suggested that we should put on, are out there. They're amongst us every day. Many of them working, trying to, turn their lives around. And yeah, there's a few knuckleheads that fall back and do the same thing over again, and they end up going back again for another journey up the river. I think this is a great proposal. I have been up here in one capacity or another almost 38 years. I can tell you in all honesty that when it comes to a group home, drug treatment, even a child in need of care facility, let alone a reentry or a halfway house, not once in those 40 years have I ever seen a group, a neighborhood, come in and support it. Nobody wants any of these ever in their vicinity. It's human nature. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you I'd be any different if it were my neighborhood. But I honestly believe that Fairfax will benefit from this. This community will benefit from this. These are, like I say, they're 6 months from getting out. 6 months, they'll be right out there on your doorstep, out in your neighborhoods, going to your stores. And I wanted to answer one of the criticisms about a couple of people alluded to about the Northeast and no economic development. I can tell you that while I've been here, and I've worked with Commissioners Johnson and Townsend and McKiernan and the mayor, talking about economic development in the Northeast area, and I'm going to tell you a hard truth. It's not that there is a lack of trying on our part to get development to go there. We've talked about grocery stores at different locations, more suitable to the community. But the people that are in business have a loophole in the discrimination laws. And I don't even know that it's discrimination, because it's about dollars and cents. People will not invest their money. I mean, some of the people we've heard tonight that have bought, big warehouse buildings, they could have bought buildings on Quindaro Avenue. Why didn't they? Well, there is simply a standard that business people, housing people, developers in general use, and they use the income level of the people in the area. And unfortunately, that income level is determinative of whether they're going to build a building in your area, build a new grocery store. I think a grocery store at 18th and Parallel or 7th and Quindaro would be wonderful, be ideal. But we cannot interest a grocery store developer to build a building there, let alone build a fast food restaurant, build a retail store. No, they won't do it. It's not from a lack of asking, and I think the other commissioners can acknowledge we've all tried. We've talked to various developers. So there is, unfortunately, an economic barrier to some kinds of economic development. This economic development will provide jobs to a community that needs jobs. It will provide opportunities. Do I wish it was a grocery store? Yeah, I wish it was a grocery store. Maybe not at that location, but a little bit to the west of there, somewhere along 7th Street, somewhere between Parallel and Quindaro. I'd love it. And if any of you know somebody that owns grocery stores and would like to build there, I'd be happy to talk to them.
Yeah, let's not get into a debate here.
I'm not going to, but if you don't think we've talked to the Balls and to other developers, then you're mistaken.
All
So,
right.
I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to ask Ms. Williams some specific questions, if that's all right.
Is that microphone on? There it is. There it is.
Thank you. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams, I'd like to thank you for responding in your June 17, 2017 letter to questions raised by Ms. Jefferson and Fairfax Association Executive Director Melissa Clark. There are a couple of basic things, though, that I was not understanding, or maybe I was not asking the way I'd want to. So the first thing I'd like to know is, why was this location chosen, and how long ago was this chosen? Do you already have a rental agreement in place for the property?
We do have a rental agreement in place, but the rental agreement does not go into effect until the award of the contract. And we probably started looking about 6 months ago.
6 months ago, okay. And how did you happen to find Fairfax? In all of the world, how did you happen to land in Fairfax?
I had a realtor. There is a real estate agent. There is a company called Cressa that deals in industrial, mostly industrial areas. We wanted to go to an industrial area because we felt there would be less opposition. But then in a residential area, we don't want to be close to a residential area for obvious reasons. But we felt that when we found this Sunshine Road property, it just checked off so many boxes for us as far as the bus line, employment, and the fact that it's not so close to a residential area. We felt, in some places, even in their ordinances and in their zoning that's in place, correctional facilities and transitional housing is allowed in industrial areas. So we felt like it would be beneficial for it to be right there. We just thought that was a super location for us.
And was that realtor from this area?
He's from Omaha, I believe. His company he reached out to a realtor here. Actually, I think he reached out to Tony. And then Tony.
He hired a local broker.
He hired a local broker? Yeah. Okay.
Well, the reason I said, and let me step back, I am familiar with the type of service that you provide.
Yes, ma'am.
And it provides much needed benefits and resources for those people who are trying to reintegrate.
Yes, ma'am.
But I think the fact that all of the boxes really aren't checked off here shows that whoever led you, I think, to the Fairfax area is out of touch with this community. For instance, Fairfax and 925 Sunshine is within 2 minutes by car of 3 major residential areas. Peregrine Falcon, which is one of the newer ones. It's already been mentioned, Parkwood Colony, a long-established one. And then the homes. I mean, you can literally walk to these places if you're in better shape than I am. So I'm saying 2 minutes by car. So that box really isn't checked.
Well, can I stop right there? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
If the commissioner's speaking, so if
I'm
you would
going
like
to
her,
lose my train of thought.
if you would like her to respond, you can, but I'm not going to have her interrupt you.
Well,
so.
that's fine, because I'm going to keep my train of thought. So
All right,
that's
go ahead.
I want, as far as the residential area, and in our other facilities, we are smack dab in the middle of a residential area. And that's all I wanted to say.
And I understand that, but I'm saying, from what I'm reading here, one of the reasons Fairfax was chosen was because it's not, and I'm just saying it is. So I think it just shows that whoever led you there is out of touch. The other thing that I think you may have heard tonight is what we really want in the Northeast area to happen. And in the last 4 years, Fairfax has been the beneficiary of millions of dollars of investment. Large organizations like General Motors, property owners like Mr. James, some of the others you heard here who are represented tonight, hundreds of them, and there are at least 400 names on this petition. And I'm grateful for the Privateras. However, I think I know what's being recommended here is out of touch for what we are trying to do in the Northeast area. And I think for this to have been in the works for 6 months indicates to me that there was no outreach to the very people that you may be looking to for sources of employment, and who are people who have already invested there, who are residents, my constituents who are there every day, who've been there for years. And what we're facing here in the Northeast area is constantly fighting perception. There are good people here, hardworking people, maybe the incomes aren't the highest, but what we need then to have happen are incentives to want people to come. And I don't believe that what's being proposed here is going to do that. It's going to inhibit, I believe, the Northeast area's attempt to revitalize and build. I think it's an important service, but wrong location. I'd also like to address some of the things I've heard here about maybe the decline of Fairfax. That's not true. I'm happy to say that Fairfax is #2 in terms of the tax contributions they make to the Legends. And people are investing in there. We've spent millions on the north and the south end of Fairfax. And what we're talking about here and what I'm hearing from my constituents is what is being proposed is going to halt that progress. And I don't want to take the chance and have to overcome another perception, because people will be people. I believe that you will try to run the best facility you can, but I just think that is not the place for it in Fairfax. I wanted to say a lot of other things, but I mean, that's really the bottom line of it for me, and I'm going to encourage my fellow commissioners to help us keep moving forward with opportunities for development, for people who will want to come and not look over their shoulder. Perception is everything. Perception becomes fact. So I'm going to make a strong plea to my fellow commissioners for us to keep our options open for development in there and deny this application. But I wish you well in what you're doing to return people to being productive members of society. The other thing I will say is, yes, these are our brothers, sisters, cousins, whomever, and they're being reintegrated, but it's not concentrated. And in the Northeast area, we're dealing with a lot of concentrations of poverty, of this, of that, still good people. We don't need another focal point of that type of thing here. So I wish you well, and I encourage my commissioners to vote in opposition. Thank you.
Commissioner Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question and a comment. Are any of the residents, are they going to be sex offenders?
I'm glad you brought that up. Who's talking? Who am I speaking? Oh, okay. That was a question that was posed to me at the Planning Commission meeting. Someone said that they thought I did not have the authority to say who comes and who goes and what type of offenders we have there. I actually do have that authority, but given the fact that I said in that meeting that if there is a stipulation in the special use permit that I will not take sex offenders, crimes against children, or violent offenders, that even adds more authority to what I have to say, because you actually do have the authority to say that. If I violate that, I understand I lose my zoning. If I lose my zoning, I lose my contract, and the Bureau knows that. So in Little Rock and in Monroe, Louisiana, I do not take sex offenders, and I do not take crimes against children, and I do not take violent offenders. Most violent offenders are not getting out of prison anyway. But we do draw the line at that, and I think I had the support of the commission when, and I do think that he did make those stipulations in the special use permit.
Commissioner, can I ask, Mr. Richardson, are those stipulations written in?
As recommended by the Planning Commission on page 6 of your staff report, items 7, 8, and 9 are no murderers, no crimes against children offenders, no sex or heinous offenders.
Okay, so it is already written into the stipulation?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you. Commissioner?
And I worked down in Fairfax for 35 years. And regardless of which way I vote, I'm going to upset somebody. But working at the General Motors Fairfax plant, their cars get broke into on a regular basis. So and I guess, we would have to put more patrol people down there to make that work, because I know you said they got quiet time and stuff like that. I don't like the idea about a fence either. But it's important to me that we need to have a safe community on all four corners of Wyandotte County, not just in the northeastern section. It makes me nervous to think about what's going to happen, and it was brought up before. We've already got several houses this way anyway. So I'm a little nervous about bringing one more in and saying, well, it's okay because they're going to be in a fence, and they are a lot closer to the housing than you said they were in the first place. So I don't think it's going to be a good deal for you guys, and I apologize for that. I do want people to have second chances, but not in this particular situation.
Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first comment is actually very similar to Commissioner Walker's. I teach in Leavenworth every spring semester, and I pass Lansing every time I drive up to the college to teach, and it strikes me here, and I'm looking at a map, and immediately across the street from the Lansing State Correctional Facility is a residential neighborhood of 12 square blocks. 4 blocks away is Lansing High School, and right across the street is, I'm not going to name their name and give them a plug, but is a fast food chain that just built a new restaurant there that might be building one somewhere closer to where we live pretty soon, and that's gone up within the last year and a half. And so I'm interested, what is different about the Lansing Correctional Facility that the neighborhood butts up right against the parking lot on one side, and that on Main Street, North Main Street in Lansing, there are businesses that appear to be doing pretty well since new ones are getting built?
Well, in Topeka, I can say that the current federal contractor is right across the street from a high school. In Little Rock, I'm across the street from a brand new CVS pharmacy. We have a brand new Target. We have loft apartments that have gone up, and we have 2 hotels that have just recently gone up, and a brand new Dairy Queen. So we're not scary. We're not a scary program. We're not out there to bring, something awful to the community. We're here to actually benefit the community in any kind of way. Now, granted, we've been there 21 years and we've earned some trust, and I understand that's what it takes. It's doing what you said you would do and earning that trust. And we got to start somewhere. And as far as the Lansing program goes, I'm not familiar with it, but I do know that in other places that we add to the community. We save so many dollars in our volunteer work and what we bring to the community. Every year we host either a golf tournament or a 5K for fundraising to benefit our senior citizens in our area, and a backpack ministry in a local church. We choose to be givers and not necessarily takers. We don't want to drain the community and the resources. It costs almost $40,000 a year to house someone in a federal penitentiary. These people, when they come out, they are required to pay 25% of their gross income to offset the government's cost to house them. I think it's time when they come out to accept some responsibility and to be held accountable. I think my personal philosophy has always tended more toward corrections than social work. But I also believe that I have met so many people, thousands of people who have come through my facility who go on to do very good things and have very productive lives. They have master's degrees, they have PhDs, they have made mistakes, granted. You said there were 185 federal parolees. That's way less than state parolees, and we are focusing on those federal people. And when you look at a federal crime and the restrictions placed on a federal offender versus that of a state offender. You have all these state offenders walking around, their probation officers have caseloads that are unmanageable because they are so high. So we're focused on this one demographic, this one population, these federal offenders coming out, hoping and helping. And, you know, my pastor always says that we're not here to make converts, we're here to make disciples. So I'm not here to make converts out of these people. They are who they are, and they were raised that way, and the percentages are against them, the statistics aren't in their favor. But at least at some point we can disciple them into becoming more productive citizens, and that is my personal mission. It's my life work. It's something that I have dedicated myself and as far as children I have 3 daughters. I have raised them in that halfway house. They know more about how the Bureau of Prisons works than I do. I've had 2 of them actually work for me. One worked security and one worked as a case manager. And they did, I have daughters that are very giving, very socially minded individuals. They're a little bit more liberal than I am, but that's the way they like to go.
All right. I apologize. I have a whole bunch of questions here, and they are going to be potentially a little scattered, so I apologize in advance. The Bureau of Prisons wants this model. Is that what I understand you to say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They do
and
want
that
this.
Statement of work that I sent you, that is the statement of work for every single contractor.
Okay, so the Bureau of Prisons wants this, and does every major city have a similar facility?
I do believe so. Now, the one in Little Rock is the only one in the state. We have the only one in the state. And everybody who's doing federal time has to release through a facility like ours. So there, you know, in Kansas, you have one in Wichita, you have one in Topeka, and you have this one in Kansas City, Kansas. There's also one in Kansas City, Missouri, and there's one in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay,
so
the
they're
Bureau of
they're
Prisons
very
wants,
close.
Prisoners who are on their way out to transition through this.
Yes, sir.
They have case managers.
They
I
have-
read your?
Yes, sir. We have case managers. We have social services. We have a chief of security. We have on-site facility directors. So
Where are these people now? If they did not come to this facility, where are they? Where would they stay?
there is a facility in Leavenworth that has the existing contract.
So
We are competing with that particular contractor for the contract. Every 5 years, these contracts come up for rebid and competitive bids. So the RFP
So
goes
wait a
out.
minute now. There is a facility identical to this in operation today in Leavenworth.
Yes, sir.
Huh.
That's my understanding, is that I do believe that's where it
And-
is.
I guess my next question would be, and what benefit then is there for that facility to move from its current location where it has been established to another location?
It's based on past performance, and it is a competitive bid. So based on my past performance and if I can beat them in their bid, then the award would come to Reentry Development.
Okay, Mr. Privatera, you own quite a few properties around this one. I guess being a large property owner directly around this facility, which you also own, are you concerned that the value of your properties will decline as the result of this? And are you concerned that you'll be unable to lease or sell your properties as a result of this?
I was hoping you were going to ask that question. The answer to the question is, I'm not worried about it at all. After I met Ms. Williams, I knew that I had found the right person and the right tenant for this building. I vetted out all of those concerns that everybody has said. I have the most to lose of everybody in the room, and I'm not worried about it. To the point where the gentleman that came and spoke about he lived in the West Bottoms, not only do we have a lot of buildings in Fairfax, but we bought more buildings in the West Bottoms. And we have found that this operator is the Cadillac of operators, is the best operator in the industry in the United States to do what she does.
Will they lease or buy from you?
They will lease the building.
And so the building will continue to pay property taxes?
The building did not pay property taxes before I bought it.
Okay, but-
It was a state-owned building, and now it does pay
But it
property
does now,
taxes. Yes.
and it will continue.
It will continue.
And another question.
There is no assistance being given to anyone for this. This is 100% privately funded.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I heard what sounded like an allegation that the unified government was going to make some sort of payment for each person housed. I want to clarify that.
No, sir. We are funded by the Justice Department, and that's where the money comes from to operate. It is a firm fixed rate for us to operate with the 85 beds. So no, the unified government doesn't get any money from this. It's tax based.
Okay.
And that's.
How many other facilities does your company operate?
City of Faith operates 5 in Monroe, Louisiana. One of those is a state contract, and the other 4 buildings house federal offenders. And we have our administrative building office in Monroe, Louisiana. We also have in Little Rock is 110 beds. Reentry Development is a new company that a couple of investors and I have started recently. Well,
So how
about a year
many
ago.
total prisoners collectively do your facilities house currently?
Probably close to 300.
And you said you've not had any significant incidents at your properties in 21 years of operation.
Right, and actually the company, City of Faith, has been in operation since 1984. I didn't come on board till 1996.
Apologies, let me look through my questions here. So if these are, in fact, Kansas City, Kansas residents, and they don't come to this facility, they would go to the Leavenworth, Kansas facility. So somewhere they're going to go
Yeah, right.
to a
right.
transitional facility if they are
Exactly.
on their way to release.
Yes, sir.
At this time, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Philbrook.
This is one of those problems that we all hate to face, and especially as commissioners, because we have to balance everything out for what we think is the best for our community. And we like to think that we're think on the upper levels and not down in the weeds, but we all live in the weeds whether we like to or not, because we have to walk across those parking lots, you know, and so on, and be concerned about who's around us. The first thing is I'm glad he asked the question about opportunity for these people. That right now Leavenworth is their opportunity, but if you beat out Leavenworth, then that one shuts down and it comes here. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard you right. You also said something about having in one of your other facilities a capability of getting on the internet and finding jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, when you say on the internet, is that well guarded so they don't have?
Yeah,
you
they
understand
don't.
what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
they don't dilly dally and nonsense. No, ma'am. We have firewalls and protections in place.
Okay. Have you been in contact with Workforce Partnership in this area?
Not in this area, but we utilize Workforce greatly in Little Rock.
Okay. Well, our local area is who you have to work with.
I understand.
Okay. I'm just saying. And the reason I bring that up is because, and I'll say that in a minute, but hang on a second. How long are you willing, because I don't know when your deadline is to put in for this, how long do you have to dilly-dally if we were to choose to have you work with the community?
Well, time is kind of standing still at the moment. This particular RFP is in pre-solicitation, so I do have a little bit of leeway, a little bit of time to dilly-dally. as you
Well,
say.
I know you would, and when you're a business and you're coming forward and you have the money standing still and, you
Well,
know, every moment
I'm
counts.
at everybody's mercy, so it just depends on the Bureau of Prisons timeline.
And right, and so what is your drop dead date on this?
I don't have one at the moment.
Okay, all right. So,
And I hope it's not anytime soon.
well,
hope I got a
and I
minute.
don't mean your personal drop dead date, but when you have to have it in, and they have to know that there's a possibility. Okay. The other, so back to my personal concern, and I'm going to say this, is that with being involved in the Workforce Partnership Group for Area 3, with also being involved with the Greater Kansas City Coalition to End Homelessness, yeah, all of this comes together, and without good facilities, then it's very hard for reentry. Okay, and I work with this with people that work with this all the time, so I have a concern around the quality. I understand your quality is excellent, but I also understand it's an issue around not in my backyard. Okay, and that's normal and that's human. We all are that way. We all have those kind of issues. I'm glad to hear that you guys would be paying taxes. That's a plus, but I want to say something to Elnora Jefferson. Elnora, I love the suggestion of working together and the possibility of maybe coming up with something that would make the community happier along with, you know, your facility. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I have long said that this is not a competition, it is a collaboration. It does take the community, and it does take us, you know, it does take a village, to quote my former First Lady of Arkansas.
Well, in a way, it is a competition because you want it's a business.
Well, it's a competition within the federal system, but it is a collaboration among resources within the community.
Correct. It's both, and I understand both. And I know this community. Without the collaboration, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay? And I know you're feeling that right now.
Well, I knew it coming in.
Okay. Let's see, what else do I want to answer you. There's the part about perception, as everybody says. The perception is a big problem.
Right.
Okay, and we do have a lot of issues around the northeast sector, and we don't want to scare people away.
Right.
You know. And Tony Privatera, thank you very much for stepping forward. I do appreciate your boldness and your help. I really do. I'm just really torn between, you know, which way to go on this, because I know we need something, but where? And maybe not at Tony's location, maybe someplace else. I don't know. Uh-oh, Tony's going to yell at me.
Wow.
That wasn't, I won't take that as a question. Keep going.
It wasn't a question?
It was
Oh,
not,
it
it was
wasn't
not
a
a question,
question.
sorry.
Thank you for saving me, Mayor. But basically, with the Community Relations Board, which evidently needs to be established beforehand.
Right.
On something like that for us, that's kind of in the direction I'm going. I just have to say, I really would like it to work, but I also don't want to step on so many toes that there's so many people that are upset that it creates issues for our area. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor, and Ms. Williams. I do want to appreciate the work that you are doing for persons that are reintegrating back into our community, into society at large. It's noble work. I've always been a proponent of reentry, and it's already been said, persons that are coming back into society, they are owed, I believe, a fair second chance to reintegrate back into society, jobs, housing, and all the things that go into it. I too, like my fellow commissioner, am up at Lansing Correctional Facility to visit and minister to the inmates, and so whatever happens tonight, I will always be a proponent of reentry. I must say that I'm not in favor of this proposal, though, at this time. The reasons have already been established by the Fairfax Industrial Association, and I see countless signatures that have come before us, too many for me to count. I agree with what Commissioner Townsend has said, 432 signatures. I agree with fellow Commissioner Townsend, the things that she has said, and several of our community opponents. And so right now, I'm just not convinced that a project of this type is one that promotes the well-being of the northeast section of town. Maybe you've been given some history, maybe you haven't. So I don't know whether or not you can appreciate the fact that this area has had its share of challenges historically. And Commissioner Townsend, Commissioner Bynum, and myself are working diligently to try to bring forward a master development plan for this area of town that will help to guide the development going forward into the future. And so in doing so, it's important that we maximize the economic engine that is the Fairfax Industrial District. So the question that everybody continues to ask is, well, if it's not here, then where? You know, do these people go? And I think that, quite honestly, I think it's something that requires a far broader community-wide discussion about where to put it. Some have offered those suggestions tonight, whether it be south or west or, you know, other areas of town. But as for right now, I just do not believe that this is the right time for us to put this type of project in the northeast section of town. And I stand in support of Commissioner Townsend's recommendation to deny this application.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, Mayor. The Fairfax area and the northeast area of Wyandotte County are areas that are very near and dear to me and hold a very strong sentimental place for me. My father worked 44 years at CertainTeed. It was literally the only job he ever held. It's the reason I was able to go to college. I am a very proud graduate of Sumner Academy, so this area it is very close to my heart. Ms. Williams, I want to thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, ma'am.
I do believe that every person, and I mean every single person, deserves not only a chance, but a second chance. And we all know people, every one of us here knows people in our lives that we know deserve a second chance. So I really do appreciate the work. I appreciate the Privatera family because what you've done with the buildings that you've acquired in Fairfax is very, very nice and impressive. I have appreciated the look of the buildings you've acquired for quite some time now. I do spend a good deal of time in the Fairfax area. You know, we've made a reference, a comparison to the Lansing community with regard to this kind of re-entry or prison or such type facility. I don't think it's a fair comparison. I don't believe that the Lansing community is fighting each and every day for their image. I do believe our Northeast community is fighting every single day for our image. We've made a comment here about building trust. Commissioner Johnson and Townsend, I think both have referenced the upcoming master planning effort in the Northeast area. It does encompass the Fairfax area. We spent 2 years talking about a master plan only to get to the point where we are right now, which is the starting line. Also, I believe Commissioner Townsend and Johnson and I have all spoken publicly in public meetings asking for consideration of perhaps the Northeast area to have its own police substation, for example. That was met with, don't get ahead of the master plan. And I don't disagree with that. But my point is, we are at the starting gate of a master planning process, hopefully to redevelop and transform this entire area. I have to say that I am sorry that this is the area where this project has landed because I don't think it's going to fit with what we're trying to do for this area in the future. Everywhere I go in the Northeast and I talk with folks about the master planning process is coming, please participate with us in this planning process. We are rebuilding trust as we speak with this community, trying to get them to trust that we mean it with all of our hearts when we say we're at the beginning of a master planning process and please come along with us to help us make this community better. I say all of that so that you understand where I am, where my heart is on this issue. I have to stand with those who've spoken from the Northeast area and the 400 plus signatures of those in the Fairfax area, and support Commissioner Townsend and Johnson in standing in opposition to this. Thank you.
All right, I believe Commissioner Townsend's going to make a motion momentarily because she has her light on. I'll just add my 2 cents in, and Commissioner Walker said some of what I believe. I believe there's a lot more emotion around these kinds of things than is largely necessary. I don't see data nationally or locally that these kinds of facilities reduce property values or necessarily increase crime. There are 10,000 employees in Fairfax. I guarantee you there's 100 ex-offenders in Fairfax working right now. And that number's probably low. So those are good manufacturing jobs. They're good quality jobs. And for people who are often restricted where they can work, where they can live, we've created a subclass of people in our country, of people that just can't live or work anywhere. I'll repeat, we have 612 state parolees. We have 185 federal parolees in Kansas City, Kansas today. We have 577 people in community corrections supervised through our court system. That's 1,400 people in our community who are under court supervision in some manner. None of them are receiving the caliber of help that this facility would provide. The job training, the educational component, the opportunity to turn things around. So this is probably the best offer for our returning folks into the community have. And it's sad to me that that we might turn it down. I understand. I've been up here for 10 years, and every group home, every facility of any kind meets with neighborhood opposition. It's just the rule. I have a drug treatment facility in my neighborhood, in a residential neighborhood, single family home that the Supreme Court says you can have one of these group homes anywhere. They're protected. Our whole community, we had to peel everybody off their ceilings. It's fine. Folks, it's fine. And so I think that there gets to be a lot of emotion and a lot of symbolism around these things that I believe personally is overblown. And I do believe that we have a crisis in Wyandotte County of people returning from jail and having zero training, zero job applications, zero access to transportation, and the recidivism rates of groups that do not have this kind of facility are exponentially higher than people who do. So I get it. I get that it's not popular. I get that taking a stand for really the new untouchables in our community is not popular. I don't think it hurts our community or our image, and I don't think it creates crime. That's just my personal opinion, and I respect everyone to have a different opinion than I do, but I just think that we have a crisis in our community of people who have no opportunity, and I hate to lose this opportunity. But I respect the decision of everyone up here, and obviously we'll go with where the majority leads us. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I make the motion, I just wanted to say, Commissioner McKiernan, when passion overtakes me, leave it to Commissioner McKiernan to walk through the steps that I wanted to do and just got carried away, as well as Commissioners Bynum and Johnson, and they invoke my name a lot, but this is support of the Northeast area. And factually or not, we are fighting perception. That's a fact. And that is the problem here. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Privatera that he has the most to lose. I believe if this does not go through, the buildings look great, and someone else that will be more conducive to what's there in Fairfax and where we're trying to go in Fairfax and Northeast End will take you up on it. I drove by that facility last night. Looks nice. I can't imagine how that is going to change, though, with the fence. So if we're putting up barriers, so to speak, that may draw attention to what it is, again, it's not conducive to, again, the perception we're fighting, and perception becomes fact. I also believe that when you look at the Leavenworth Lansing area, you're talking about one of the oldest forts west of the Mississippi from way back in the day. So corrections and military were there, and all the development grew around it. That's not what we've got here. We've got a different type of development and a different type of business trying to come into it. So as Commissioner Bynum said, I don't think that comparison is real. Having said all of that, I move to deny this application.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to deny, and the recommendation is for approval. A recommendation to deny means a yes vote is for denial, not for the project. And we're always kind of voting a little backwards on that, so I just want to clarify. If you vote yes on the motion, it is to deny the development. If you vote no on the motion, it is a vote for the development. Does that make sense to everyone? I just like to we do this about once a quarter. So I just want to walk through that again. Commissioner McKiernan, did you have something you wanted to add?
I do. I have one clarifying question. The facility that's currently in Leavenworth is currently operating. Are they losing their contract? Or does the Fed simply go out for competitive renewal on a periodic basis? So the Fed goes out for they put out a competitive renewal, and the fact that the renewal is put out does not indicate that the currently operating facility is necessarily in jeopardy of not operating anymore, nor does it indicate that they are doing anything bad in their current operation.
You're correct. You're correct.
Thank you.
All right, the motion is before us. The motion is to deny. Roll call.
Roll call. McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
No.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 8-1. That motion carries.
I will note it requires 8 votes, and it met the 8-vote threshold. Thank you. All right. That brings us, if everyone's welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Should you choose not to, we'd ask that you leave quietly so we can continue our business. That brings us to item SP 2017-40, Jeff Stenney with Joe's Kansas City Barbecue. Is the applicant here tonight? Yes. All right, sir, we're asking you to come forward and make application.
He's not the applicant. He's the person who removed the item.
Excuse me?
You're not the applicant, correct? You're the person who asked that it be removed in opposition.
No, that's the gentleman that asked it to be removed.
Are you the applicant? I'm looking for the applicant who wants this to happen.
I'm representing Jeff Staney and Joe's Kansas City Barbecue.
That's who I want
Yes.
to talk to. What's your name, sir?
My name is Steve Query, and I'm the Director of Operations.
Okay.
And since there is an objection to our plan, I'm not versed enough in this. Jeff Staney is out of town, and Ryan Barrows, who is the Director of Operation, who's been involved in this process from the beginning, is also out of town. So I'm asking for if you would consider a continuation where we could present this later.
You would like us to continue. The applicant are you authorized to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes.
And the applicant is asking for a continuation?
Yes, so that Ryan Barrows, who has been in the beginning of this process and who has all the knowledge of the special lease permit, he'll be able to answer all the questions. I am not able to.
Mr. Richardson, am I correct that the applicant is able to ask for it to move forward? Or to ask for it to be held over?
Yes, but the public hearing is open now, so you ought to ask for and against, and then make a recommendation after that.
Okay, so we'll need to go ahead and open the public hearing regardless, and then you can make a request to go back to the planning and zoning.
Okay.
So, thank you. You're welcome to have a seat. I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Richardson, would you give us a brief synopsis for the public record?
The location in question is already an approved special use permit for parking, but as part of that special use permit, they described that the parking would be for Oklahoma Joe's, employee parking, I believe. They want to change that so that it could be for Taco Republic parking. Taco Republic originally had a parking agreement on a piece of property in Roland Park. That parking agreement required their city council approval, which has been denied recently. The old building that was there was torn down, and you can no longer park there. So the Oklahoma Joe's proprietor owns the property, but not the business of Taco Republic. And given the fact that there's a certain amount of parking there, Oklahoma Joe's already had enough, they have a parking agreement with the building to the north of Oklahoma Joe's. They are requesting just to make this Taco Republic parking for purposes of Taco Republic having parking and being able to continue operation while they work out another scenario for parking in the area that's more permanent.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Let the record show no one's moving forward to speak in favor. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this application? Sir, you're welcome to come forward. You have up to 3 minutes.
I'm here tonight to ask you to deny this. I own the property that this adjoins. It's a car wash, and 8 out of 10 times that I go to this facility, there's trucks, box cars, box trucks, not cars, trailers or something parked there, half on my property and half on their property, but you cannot see to go left or right on Mission Road. I'm not for sure what the speed limit is there, but I'm sure it's 35 miles an hour. And when you pull out on, they're parking sometimes on the curb, on Mission Road, sometimes in Mission Road.
Okay.
And it's a hazard to my customers. It's not fair to me. I could go on for another half hour why I oppose this, but I'll keep it short and sweet to my 2.5 or 3 minutes. But that's my biggest reason why I oppose this. It's marked off, but they don't enforce that. They park from the street, literally to the street, clear onto the parking lot. And it's not just one day, it's 6 days out of the week. So I'd ask you to not approve this application, please.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition? Let the record show no one else is moving to speak. I will close the public hearing and open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner, we do have a request by the applicant for it to be held over for 30 days. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I guess I just have a question. The item says revising previously approved application to lease parking to a neighboring business. So Joe's Kansas City Barbecue is going to lease parking to someone else?
Well,
Or from someone else?
Joe's Kansas City, I don't believe, is the owner of that particular parcel. It's the proprietor under a separate business entity owns that parcel, was leasing it to Oklahoma Joe's for parking. Regardless of any action taken on this special use permit by the commission, for at least or almost 2 more years, that site will be able to be used for parking of some kind or another. So that's the situation that we're in. This is already approved as parking, and they're just requesting that it be approved so that Taco Republic could use it for the purpose of their zoning. If they don't have this additional parking, then I would be forced to tell them that they can't renew their business license for lack of parking, because they wouldn't meet the zoning code for parking.
Which business are you referring to?
Taco Republic.
Taco Republic.
So Taco Republic needs more parking.
Correct.
Taco Republic had parking in Roland Park. Roland Park revoked it. So now they need this parking or they can't operate.
Correct.
All right. Commissioner Walker.
The 47th Street Corridor Committee, which consists of Roland Park, Kansas City, Kansas, and
Westwood.
have considered and have recommended approval of this issue. For those that don't know, the mayor has put myself and Gia and Director of Rosedale Development for us, and then similar elected and unelected people.
And for that appointment, you owe me a great deal of gratitude.
Yeah, it's been, I can't wait for my replacement to get that one and go to 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon meetings. Be a lot of fun.
I'm here to help.
You know, I know he's asking to wait for somebody. The opposition, I mean, it's going to continue to be there. People are going to park illegally. We have an enforcement obligation. Not giving this special use permit is not going to change anything. If you've ever gone to Joe's, that place is packed with people. And when they're in parking, they're going to find a place to park. Whether they park over across the street in Roland Park or whether they park on this vacant piece of ground. I don't think anything's going to change, and I don't see any reason to continue it. I in fact, am going to move for approval.
All right. It has been moved and seconded for approval as stated. Who seconded it? I seconded it. Commissioner Walters. Walker and Walters. All right. Any further discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve it. Commissioner McKiernan.
Sorry, last minute again. So, Commissioner Walker, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head here. There is an enforcement responsibility that needs to come into play here. It sounds like what's being described is not necessarily a product of the special use permit. It's a product of people who are potentially parking where they're not supposed to be parking per the special use permit, per the parking, and we simply need some enforcement. Would that?
That seems to be the consensus of everyone. And I don't know if our police are not responding or who it is, but, you know, it seems to be a matter that should be handled through, you start writing, you know, $50 or $100 tickets, people stop parking.
All right. The motion and second is before us. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
I think we have set a record of 2.5 hours for consent agenda. It's not kind of the record we're going for, but we did set a record. We are going to take a 10-minute recess, and no, we don't. It was included as the second one. Those were included together. So that does conclude our consent agenda. For planning and zoning, we have the planning and zoning non-consent, but we'll take a 10-minute recess and reconvene at 9:30. Thank you. All right, we are back. We have 2 planning and zoning non-consent items. The first is two parts of the same thing, and the Planning Commission sent us contradictory and mutually exclusive directions. Mr. Richardson, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct at this time in the evening.
Okay, so we have a master plan amendment that's approved and a zoning application that's denied. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to have to do a public hearing. My intent is to make a motion to send it back and let them sort their mess out. But I don't intend to sort it out for them. But I am going to have to open up a public hearing to do that. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
All right. We'll ask the applicant to come forward. We have handouts. All right. Yes, we could.
Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
My name's John Carey of 925 South 89th Street, and I'm here representing my father, Robert James Carey. We are asking to rezone the land right there. We're asking to rezone the land he owns on 89th Street from Swartz to Osage as follows. The northernmost piece of the property, do we have any of the cuts that have the? Okay. The northernmost piece of the property, we would like to remain agricultural. We're going to keep that at like 5 to 6 acres. We would then like to divide the remaining property to the south into 3 2.805 acre lots and zone them as residential to be put up for sale as raw land only. The purchaser, whoever that may be, will determine the use of the land after that. This was recommended for approval by Mr. Richardson, the Director of Urban Planning, yet denied by the City Planning Commission. My father does not intend to build anything on the residential plots. My father is also current and always has been on his taxes, and no home will be built on the north agricultural plot. Mr. Carey will continue to own and plans to will it to all of his 9 children. Opposition to this plan stated 3 reasons why they would not want my father to do with the land as he wishes: infrastructure, septic tanks, and road layout. Let's see, there's adequate power transmission lines and water lines to support 3 more residences. No opposition stated anything to the contrary, yet the word infrastructure was used many times. So we'll assume, I think you guys can tell I usually don't speak in front of people.
Doing fine.
So we'll assume the opponents were referring to sewers and road layouts, which we'll cover next. Septic tank fears. Some opponents expressed fears that raw sewage may gravitationally enter their land from the septic tanks installed by the future property owners. I attempted to dispel this notion by stating that the unified government has some of the best inspectors in the nation. No septic tank could ever be commissioned without their approval. I also took it upon myself to perform perk tests, which you can see that the method that I used, and all 3 of the residential properties passed. Let's see. Road layout. It's been stated that 89th Street could not handle any more traffic. They stated the road was narrow. They stated people had to slow down and hug the ditch as they passed, and that additional traffic would cause trouble. But my solution was, if we take the cornermost lot at 89th and Swartz, and that driveway would go onto Swartz, then that would only make 2 residential lots. Once again, my father's not building on the agricultural lot. That would only make 2, which would increase the road traffic by only 20%. And then I'd have to question how many cars pass each other on any given day, in opposite directions. And you can also look at speed and distance. from Swartz to the 90 degrees at Osage, that's only 1,300 feet. That's a quarter mile. That's a 440 run like in high school. The speed you couldn't gain very much. All right, next let's look at road width. Make the assumption that all the traffic from will exit south on 89th and enter Swartz. So let's look at the width of the road. And these photos, I took these off of Google Earth. I measured 89th Street. It's 16 and a half feet across. I measured Swartz Road, and it's 16.86 across. Now, normally people would try to head towards 435, which would be at 94th and Kansas Avenue. I measured 94th Street, and it's 16.96 feet across. So in conclusion, the primary opponent of the rezoning proposal, do we have Google Earth available?
We can put up a satellite. Byron, why don't you pull the
Just
base map up
satellite.
with
I mean, just satellite is all I need. Can you zoom in on the 8741 Osage? It's the top right of the property. That'd be Mr. McKinney's land. Yeah, right there. And then that's his land. And if you zoom in on the shop and the house, now if you'll move north or south a little bit, I'm sorry. No. Yeah, you're on the corner. Let's go back to the east. Okay, now let's go south down the property line. A little farther to the shops. And a little bit farther than that so we can take a look at how many vehicles we're looking at on this one particular property. Because right down below, what we have here, Mr. McKinney is the primary opponent to the rezoning of these three pieces of property. This is Mr. McKinney's land, and he has said that 89th Street would be congested. Mr. McKinney owns A1 Trucking and Paving, which you can see I pulled off of Manta. It has does a revenue of $625,000, employs 5 staff. It's a paving company, so I think that we can safely assume that I see a road grader there. I'm sure that there's pavers, dump trucks. We've got employees coming and going. What we currently have is we have 8 people on this side of the road on 89th Street, or from Mr. McKinney, including Mr. McKinney, we have 8 people all the way around to Swartz. It appears that just on his property alone, there's more vehicles than all the remaining people that we're speaking of, plus 2 more houses that would be put onto 89th Street. So I'm asking that we accept the property rezoning. All right.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Does anyone else like to speak in favor of this proposal? Okay.
My name is Shelby Kness, 925 South 89th Street, and I am for him being able to zone his property. I believe the reason that we buy property is so that we can resell it, and I believe that also that the neighbors have gotten used to that property being vacant and nothing being there, and it's their own personal park at this point. This is a man who's retired that would like to sell off his property and regain some of his money, so I'm for it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Let the record show no one else is stepping forward. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Please come forward at this time.
I'm Shirley Carter Eichert. I live at 804 South 89th Street. This property was sold about 6 or 7 years ago. And when myself and one of the sons that owned the property wanted to buy it, The other son did not want to sell it to us. I own 14 acres. I am objecting to these people wanting to build 3 houses there because there is a stream or a runoff or something that goes down between that property. And if they're using any kind of chemicals or anything, I have cows. Not only that, the road is too narrow for any more traffic. When you come off of 86th Street, coming around 2 bends to get to where I live, you have to let each other by. And when it is snowing or icy, the city does not just come to that little cul-de-sac. I call it a country cul-de-sac. They do not snow plow our streets like they should. So we have friends that plow our streets when the city hasn't gotten to them. But this is a very narrow street. When I cut my yard, I'm on a slope going down to the street. People that don't live there, I take my life in my hands just to cut my yard. There is a highway patrolman that lives up on the corner. He does not want this. And the rest of us don't want it. It's just a little piece, a piece that we would like to keep, because this is not conducive to having, say that you build 3 houses, that's 6 more cars.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
Excuse me?
You have 1 more minute.
That is not conducive to possibly 6 or 7 more cars on what my husband used to call a wagon trail. And we still have that same wagon trail. It has never been widened or anything. And I'm against it because of the traffic.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm Alan McKinney. I am the owner of A1 Trucking and Paving. I've been there 35 years.
Can you pull the microphone up, please, sir?
I've been there 35 years. I do own the paving company. The road that we're talking, Osage, that's where I live. I come up that road there. We don't hardly go around that corner at all because of the traffic of it, you know. And the street is 15.6 inches. It's not no 16, 18 inches, okay? They don't live there. They bought the property so they can sell to develop houses. If they lived there, they wouldn't do it.
I'm Debbie McKinney, 8741 Osage Avenue. We moved there, we bought that place there, we built that place there because of the type of area it is. And the more it's getting developed and developed and developed, it's just becoming not what we wanted. We have invested all these years there because to raise our family and have a nice, peaceful place to live. And it has become traffic. We're ducking each other going around the roads, and we just don't need any more. We don't need any more traffic.
All right, thank you.
We love to look out our window and see peace, not people's backyards and, you know, everything.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Let the record show no one else coming forward. I will close the public hearing. I will allow the applicant to make a summative comment if you would like.
Thank you. Number one, if Mr. McKinney accesses his property from Osage and 86th Street, what are his concerns about 89th Street? And number two is, has anyone ever heard of somebody that bought some land right next to a landfill and then you're complaining after you have the land of what it smells like? Well, I mean, that's not right. So, along those same lines, instead of stopping my father from being able to divide the land that is his rightfully, they have the option to purchase it as soon as we divide it. That's how the United States works. And
thank you. All right, sir, the public hearing is closed. We will We will open it now to the commissioners. So we have two issues here. Well, we have a couple issues here. One, we have an application for a master plan amendment. We could, I'm going to leave it up to the commission. I told you I'm just annoyed with our planning commission for not sorting this out for us, but we have the option of sorting it out right now or sending it back. But the master plan amendment has been approved. Honestly, I've never seen this. And then the change of zone has been denied. So by completely opposite votes, it doesn't make any sense at all. So what we have then is we could, I'll just leave it up to the commission. We could approve the master plan amendment and go against them, and it would take 8 votes to change the recommendation for denial, or vice versa. We could deny the approval and approve the other, but one of those is going to take 8 votes. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner, or we could send the whole mess back and take 6 votes. Commissioner Walker.
My intention is to make a motion on item 2017-4 to approve the change in the master plan amendment. In other words, follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Okay, so that motion is on the table.
And then I would...
Hold on, we'll do one motion at a time.
Address the next item after this motion is answered.
Okay, so there's been a motion and second for approval to go along with the master plan amendment application. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Mr. Walker?
The change of zone, which seems the Planning Commission made a reversal from what they appeared to do in the first one. It's going to require 8 votes to if I understand, to override. I'm going to throw this out because I believe that if you buy land, it's your right to try to sell that land, try to develop that land, and you know, if somebody wants to build a house on that and buy a piece of property from these people, they should have the right to do that. Now, whether there's adequate, whether the roads would discourage me or the lack of sewers, that's not my issue. So I'm going to make a motion that we override the Planning Commission's recommendation for denial.
Second.
All right, so there is a motion, and the motion is to, I just have to say this right because can the attorney help me say this right?
So the motion is to...
Motion is to override the Planning Commission recommendation of denial.
Okay, and thereby approve.
So yes, so if you vote yes, you're voting to override.
Okay, so if you're voting yes, you're voting to override and in favor of the application, the original application. Okay.
And it will need 8.
And it would need 8 votes because there is, it is going against the Planning Commission's recommendation. All right, so there's a motion and a second to override. Seeing no further comment, roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
No.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 8-1. That motion carries.
All right, so that is overridden, and that is approved. Thank you. That concludes our planning and zoning portion of the meeting. That brings us now to our non-planning consent agenda.
Motion to approve both items, all
Second.
items.
All right, that we do need to offer anyone an opportunity to withdraw any of this regular business material. You will be frowned upon, but you are welcome to withdraw something. Let the record show no one's moving to pull anything off. Everything will be voted on by a single motion. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, that brings us to our standing committee agenda. The first is an item, Building and Building Regulations Synopsis, Neighborhood and Community Development, chaired by Commissioner Walker. Commissioner Walker, do you have any statement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley, Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
A 3-hour wait and an excellent presentation. Thank you. All right. The next item is an ordinance to amend Section 35-651 to seatbelt fines and synopsis, chaired by Commissioner Bynum.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'll just say this is another state's bad idea. We have a $10 fine, they make it a $30 fine, and we have to send $20 to the state. This is a revenue generator for the state by sending seatbelt fines. I'll just make a political commentary. If this is their solution to their budget of getting $20 for a seatbelt fine, that's pretty pathetic. But it is what it is, and we're making our ordinance match the state's. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane,
It's ridiculous.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. The third item is an agreement with Mission, Kansas. Please note the blue sheet corrected in our summary in the agenda. 3140 is the correct number. There was a typo on the other that the blue sheet has corrected. Administration and Human Services, chaired by Commissioner Markley.
This was unanimously approved and fast-tracked. Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
I just want to commend our legal staff on your excellent way of spending your evening with us. We want to thank you for being here tonight. All right, administrators, voting delegate for the NACO conference to designate Emmerich Cross as part of the 50th celebration for his birthday.
Move to approve.
Second.
We're sending him to Franklin County, Ohio for his 50th birthday, so
What's in Franklin County first?
I think it's Columbus.
Columbus?
Columbus, Ohio.
Roll call.
Well, better you than me.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley, Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, that brings us to a resolution for T-Bone's management agreement. And I am going to ask for a presentation for the public. So I'll ask for a full presentation on this by our staff.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and introduce John Stevens. We've been working on this project for quite some time. Very in-depth work with the T-Bones, considering they're a very viable part of our community. And I'll turn this over to John, our Director of Economic Development, to present a management agreement that we are putting forth tonight, recommending approval of. John?
Stole my thunder. John Stevens, Director of Economic Development. Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. The issue at hand does concern T-Bones Baseball and the Community America Ballpark. And tonight we'll be reviewing the current status of the T-Bones, as well as reviewing a proposed management agreement. So the current status is that the direct and indirect economic development impact is $4.2 million a year from T-Bones Baseball. And we view it as an integral part of the Village West development as part of the #1 tourist attraction in the state of Kansas. However, as new attractions have been added, attendance at T-Bones games has declined. And in 2014, the unified government took ownership of Community America Ballpark, making the T-Bones a tenant and structuring a lease agreement. So you can see there have been some ups and downs, but generally there has been an erosion from 2010 to 2016 in overall attendance at T-Bones baseball. Additionally, in June of 2016, a demand letter was sent to the T-Bones organization. They responded to that their income was insufficient to meet the current lease obligations. The UG then paid $125,000 in September of 2016 for the obligations related to the property taxes on the parking lot and the Legends CAM, common area maintenance charges. So, continuing with the current status, when the UG purchased the stadium in 2014, it used $5.5 million in STAR bonds. Those bonds were paid off December 1st of 2016, so therefore currently there is no outstanding debt on the stadium itself. You can see, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer, but there's the 20-year lease terms with annual payments as it was structured or is structured in the lease agreement. Additionally, as we were going through the staff review process of the status of the T-Bones, the independent auditors that were brought in by the UG reviewed revenue and attendance, and they determined that the declines correlated year over year with the revenue projections. So that is where the decreased revenue is coming from. Sales and travel expenses are consistent with the size and the type of team and the type of operation from a national perspective. And cash management and financial transaction reviews demonstrated that the T-Bones baseball did practice proper financial controls related to the operation of their organization. So additionally, staff compared 11 publicly owned baseball teams and their provisions. Several were consistent with T-Bones baseball and the agreement. Several did not require teams to pay the utilities related to the stadium, and most included provisions for revenue sharing arrangements. So jointly working with the T-Bones on a pro forma financial break-even analysis, the idea was to create a pro forma model that allowed them to sustain operations and continue to operate in a professional manner even during some of their lean performance seasons or years. So the recommendation then became to move from a lease agreement to a management agreement of the stadium, since the unified government currently owns the stadium. So a little bit about this management agreement as it is proposed to be structured. T-Bones are named as the manager of the facility. That allows us to provide an opportunity to change the tax status related to the property taxes on the stadium. If that's granted, it would mean that the UG no longer is liable for approximately $246,000 a year in property taxes on the facility. And then it would also nullify the T-Bones baseball paying an annualized lease payment to the unified government. It would also change the current term from 20 years, which is currently scheduled to end in 2034, to a 6-year management agreement ending in 2022. The UG would be responsible for the Legends parking lot, property tax, and common area maintenance charges as were outlined and paid in 2016. And you can see that it's total of $119,000 per year, and then 46% of that the UG receives back, and then the CAM charges are estimated at $25,000 a year. The BPU and UG utility account would be put in the UG name, in the unified government's name, for bills beginning June of 2017. The T-Bones currently pay a discounted portion of the total bill. It would be estimated to be 45% of the total bill that the T-Bones pay. Then additionally, the ERC and ESC would remain at the existing rate structure, electric rate of 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour going forward, and water rates at 177 per CCF going forward. The UG would cover the remaining cost of the utility bill, which is estimated at 55%. So to summarize that, the discounted portion of the bill, and then the UG would pay the remaining 55%. So a little bit more about this management agreement as it's structured in regards to past due bills, which are present, as well as a surety bond, is the T-Bones agree to pay in this management agreement past due bills over 4 years at $20,000 per year. Additionally, the unpaid UG sewer and stormwater bills would be paid at $3,000, which is discounted from the current $6,000 outstanding. The management contract, as I said, is structured on a go-forward basis. So this management agreement is based upon actual performance numbers from the audit, from their financials, and it would, there is every indication to believe that this would be a viable coverage for them to continue operating. Finally, as it relates to the management agreement, the T-Bones are required to obtain a surety bond of $135,000, which includes annual utilities estimates with sales tax and pilot of $115,000 and 1/4 of their other obligations paid by the UG, which is estimated at $20,000. So that surety bond is if they fail to pay, we claim the surety bond. Here is, I believe you all have it it was distributed to you, but here is a summation of the fiscal impact to the unified government related to the previous agreement, past year's activities, and the proposed agreement. So you can see how some of the burdens shift, but overall the net inflows and outflows are shown at the bottom. Additionally, I think it's important to mention that the T-Bones Baseball ownership has shared with us several things that they believe are concerted efforts on their part to improve attendance and revenue. That includes improved sales, an improved sales team, and the efforts on that, an increased focus on group sales for tickets, an increased promotional and marketing focus, and increased corporate and advertiser sales that they believe they are seeing in the marketplace due to some focused efforts that they're incorporating. So with that, before I close, I will say Adam Ellert, the owner, is here. If there are any questions, he's happy to answer those. He's indicated to us. And with that, staff recommends that we adopt the new proposed management agreement. Thank you.
All right, for this item, for items that have already been before the full commission, I tend to bring them back to the full commission and bypass the standing committee process just because we've already all talked about it, so we're just all going to talk about it again. The standing committees is typically where we have public input. Since we bypassed the standing committee, we've not had an opportunity for public input, so I will open it up for public input if there are folks who would like to express their opinion about it. So I'm going to start with that public input, and then I'll bring it back to the commission for dialogue. So I'll offer it the same way I do a public meeting. If there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this item, to please come forward at this time. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, still. Only 2 hours before good morning. My name is Bill Hurlbrink, 11022 Cleveland Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas. Also operate a business at 508 South 70th in Muncie. I'm just here to speak on the T-Bones' behalf and encourage continued dialogue and partnership with T-Bones from the unified government for the future on a number of reasons. Number one, I just think they're a great partner for our community and a great amenity out in Village West. They've been here for 15 years. This is their 15th season of operation. When I was 10 years old growing up at 83rd and Leavenworth Road, my idea of baseball in Wyandotte County was playing in my backyard or at Wyco or at 3 and 2 at 52nd and Leavenworth Road. Now, if you ask 36-year-old me, what's baseball in Wyandotte County? It's Kansas City T-Bones baseball. It's a great draw that we see. I mean, I think we just welcomed the millionth visitor. Was it last year?
3 million and 14.
3 million. See, you know it. There it is. When I was 26 and I moved back to Kansas City, Kansas from K-State and Manhattan, I'd bring my friends and we'd go have dollar hot dogs, watch the game. It might have been more the dollar beers that brought us there, but that's aside the point, and had a great time. Now that I'm 36, I get to bring my kids there. My son's 8 years old and he's right at the age now where if you really like baseball, you really start getting baseball right now. To see him and that look in his eye when he looks out on the field and he can see the plays develop and he knows Dad, the play's at first. Dad plays at third. And that kind of teaching thing and that father-son type of relationship is the one that I cherish and that I get to have out at the T-Bones. Secondly, the tourism impact I think that it has for our community is substantial. What they said, $4 million in economic impact, and think about where these people come from. I go to the games, you go to the games, other folks in Kansas City, Kansas go to the games, but also people in Overland Park go to the games, people in Independence go to the games, people in Topeka go to the games, people in Omaha, Nebraska come down and go to the games, people in Arkansas come up to go to the games. It's not just a metro area attraction. This is a regional attraction that sees a lot of people every year come travel to visit us. Also, on the group level, I have the opportunity to do PA announcements for the T-Bones on Thursday through Sunday nights. Every night they give me a group list to read. Every night it's a group list of at least 7 groups. On weekends it's 35 groups. It's groups like the Tonganoxie Chamber or the Leawood Optimist Club or the Nebraska Boy Scouts, or again, it's a regional attraction and a regional draw that sees a lot of people come into our community to spend money not only there but also in Village West. And we have to continue to diversify our assets out west, and I think having a sport attraction along with Sporting Kansas City, along with retail, along with restaurants, along with future developments with the American Royal, Schlitterbahn, that continued diversification of that area is only going to improve it. And finally, let's not just remember what the T-Bones have done for this community as well in building ADA playgrounds across our community for the last 15 years, along with the Parks Foundation and the Turf Fund, as well as partnering with the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Camps for Kids, and a lot of other organizations within our community. Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. I just had 3 kind of core points.
Your
I'd
name,
strongly,
please?
oh, sorry, Lee Urban is my name.
Thank you.
And I would strongly recommend that the Commission adopt the recommendation. The first point is context. So if you think about it, where were you 15 years ago? 15 years ago, I was working on my major in college. In context here, the T-Bones have been planting their roots in Kansas City, Kansas for the last 15 years. And it's been stated, and I think it's a very important point, that they are an integral part of the Village West, the Legends tourist attraction from a regional perspective. The second point is the core. I love baseball. I love baseball in Wyandotte County. And where can you go to get this level of entertainment at an affordable price? It's an amazing family venue that you can't get anywhere else in the region. So there's a huge core value to keeping and maintaining this baseball organization in Kansas City, Kansas. And next, in just business terms, a $4 million economic impact against a $150,000 annual investment in a partnership with a 15-year track record of being a committed corporate citizen. I think it's a pretty sound business and economic decision. And the cherry on top is that if you change this structure, there's substantial property tax savings. So with that, thank you for your time, and please support the T-Bones.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Redden, and I currently live in Olathe, Kansas. But I originally grew up in the Wyandotte County and went to school there, and I currently work in KCK, although I live in Johnson County. But I will say that being from Wyandotte County, being from KCK, I am proud to have the T-Bones as part of the group, and I'm just here as an average citizen, just your normal plain person from Wyandotte County that, as a consumer, love to have that venue there in Wyandotte County. I think it's a huge draw, and I know that there are many people that would be so disappointed if it were not kept. I just want to say that I know a lot of people that, you know, are on lower incomes, they have their families, they can go out there and enjoy you know, good quality entertainment for everybody, all ages. I know people that are older, retired people who can't afford, you know, season tickets to the Royals and can't afford to drive all that way, but they can at the T-Bones, and they love it, and they support it year after year after year. So I know people from Leavenworth, the military families that can't always afford a lot, they come down. I know a lot of people from Johnson County greatly support it, so I think it would be a huge loss not to have that. In addition, you know, just from a business perspective, I'm a business person as well, and I can't imagine the UG not supporting this type of business, because it's a perfect business model for Wyandotte County, I believe. Perfect price point, perfect area, And I just hope that this is approved. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Thurlow from Overland Park, Kansas, but originally also from Kansas City, Kansas. I'm a Turner product, but I'm here. Yeah, proud school of the Golden Bears. I'm here as a mom, though. I'm also a supporter of the T-Bones. I remember also 15 years ago when I first heard that we were going to get a baseball team in Kansas City, Kansas. And boy, how things have changed in Wyandotte County since I grew up there. And I think the T-Bones are a big contributor of that. They were one of the leaders coming into the Legends area and helped it develop where it is. Currently, I'm fortunate that I have a son who has the excellent opportunity to be an extern in the promotions department at the T-Bones this summer. So I come to you saying what a great opportunity it is. I don't know how many of you needed to find an externship to complete education requirements. If you did, you know how difficult that is. Or maybe you have children, grandchildren, friends, family. That's an important part of experiential learning that many of our college students seek at this time. My son personally wants to work in sports management. That's his goal. He's ending the payroll at the University of Kansas. He's entering his senior year. So this opportunity that the T-Bones has afforded him right in our own backyard has hopefully given him a step up on other kids who will be seeking similar positions that maybe had to go elsewhere out of our region in order to get that experience. He's had a wonderful experience with the T-Bones from every level, from Mr. Ellert all the way down to the other externs that he works with. And I just don't think you can trade that sort of experience that he's gaining this summer working as an extern, getting that experience to put on his resume. And I so much appreciate that he's getting it while staying at home, and hoping that that also gives him opportunities later. So once again, I hope you support the T-Bones and keep the opportunities for our local kids. There are about 30 externs, I believe, that are with him over 15 years. Look at all the opportunities that that's afforded them, and I hope that you have the opportunity for kids to come. Thank you.
Good evening, Matt Watkins, Kansas City, Kansas. I'm with Reese Commercial. I come before you to support Adam Ellert as a great community partner. He's done a lot of work over the last 15 years that I think many of us don't see on a day-to-day basis. I get to see him on a weekly basis at Rotary Club, and I know he fights to put the best product on the field. And that fight is real when you have world-class attractions right next door, like Sporting Park, like the Speedway, like other things that are great for our community. But I think we need to look at the small business owner and the partner that Adam has been over the 15 years, growing what I think is a great brand of independent league baseball here in Kansas City. And he is one of the best operators out there. And I think it'd be a shame for us to turn our cheek to him in not supporting him in this endeavor. He does more for us, for our parks, for our other community assets, and I really think you ought to support him, not just bringing 200,000 people to our community every year. So with that, I would like to see us keep independent league baseball in Kansas City, and I'd encourage you to vote in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Been sitting too long. My legs are wobbly. Cheryl Reitmeyer, 2209 North 88th, Kansas City, Kansas. Proud to be here. I'm a dot. Always will be, always have been. I am also a season ticket holder at the T-Bones, and for the last 3 years, I've been the volunteer host family coordinator. I'm not paid. I do it because I love the game and I love the T-Bones and what they bring to our community. Like everyone else has said, how proud we are that we have professional baseball that's affordable, family fun here in Wyandotte County. I love being able to tell others that. And I can't imagine that we would let that leave this county, and what it does bring to the county is amazing. Yes, the numbers were down the last couple of years as far as attendance, but the efforts they're making this year, I'm already seeing the stands are filling up more and more. I'm at every game, so I know I'm watching. And so please, please accept this, whatever this is called. Pass it. Say yes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Martinez. I bought my first home in the first time ever in Wyandotte County. I'm very proud to say that. I'm actually from a small town called Finney County, initials FI, so I feel very proudly about both counties. I might not get the tattoo that says Wi-Fi, but that might be a good idea. But anyways, you know, one of the reasons why I chose to live in the area I do is because I grew up with a small town Hispanic values of boxing, baseball, and soccer. I do enjoy both. I don't see any boxing at the Legends area, but that's fine. But one of the reasons why I moved in the area is because I'm in large support of baseball and the T-Bones. I hold very truly to my heart that anything that's in Wyandotte County, I do support. I don't care where I need to drive and which part. Even if I just want to get a small order of wings, I'll drive down to Wilson's Pizza in Quindaro just to get me some wings. It sounds ridiculous and it's a little bit out of my neighborhood, but I'll go there and I'll talk. One of the things that I do is largely support everything that comes along in Wyandotte County, whether it's going to those games, whether it's getting season tickets to there. And I'm still on the wait list for Sporting KC, but and it's just something I hold dearly. If there's an opportunity of friends that want to say, hey, let's go to Overland Park, I don't want to go. I just say I'm tired that day because I want to do whatever I can to support Wyandotte County. And one of the reasons why I do like the baseball, because it's affordable, free parking. You know, I can sit in the shade, I can walk around, I don't have to be restricted about where I want to go into T-Bone Stadium, unless I have my dog, of course, and that's on certain days. But the drinks are affordable, the food's affordable, and it's affordable to bring your friends. And a matter of fact, shortly after I bought my first house, a friend that I went to college with decided to buy his house right across Painted Hills at the very first time. So I do encourage all of you guys to really be in favor of the Kansas City T-Bones and remaining here. I'm not exactly the most proficient at the MBA that I'm working at so far, but I will tell you the economic component of the Kansas City T-Bones, is strongly in support of the Wyandotte County residents and the taxpayers because it brings several people from around the metro and outside the regions as well to support. So they may stay in hotels, they may stay with friends, but they're surely not going to eat at their friend's house. They may go out to eat somewhere at the Legends, provide those tax sales that this county would definitely need. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? All right, we'll now open it up. Well, there are several here who may not have spoken. If you would like to show your support to be in favor, you're welcome to stand. Everyone who's here that would like to show your support in favor, you may stand, whether you spoke or not. Thank you. And now I'll offer it to anyone who would like to speak in opposition to come forward. There's always one.
There's
Mr.
always
Bryant.
one. Jeff Bryant, 5619 Pawnee Drive. I think most of you know I'm the Vice President of the Board of Directors for the BPU, but tonight I'm coming to you as a lifelong Wyandotte County resident and a diligent taxpayer. I can, fairly well say that my wife and I are proponents of our county. I think that most of you know some of our extracurricular activities. We speak out about the good things of Wyandotte County every chance we get. We're so happy to have many of the attractions that have brought in a lot of the hard work you guys have all done to help keep it going and keep it rolling. And as far as the T-Bones baseball, you know, we enjoy the baseball game. We believe that, like any other business, it needs to stand on its own. It is, you know, I work for my day job, a company that the city wouldn't necessarily come in and help support just because they were having an issue on making money. And I understand that it's an entertainment venue and there have been tough times. I'm looking at the new agreement, and it's showing that the UG would pay 55% of the utility bill. The UG is not paying 55%. The residents of Wyandotte County are paying 55%. So on top of everything I'm already paying in my taxes, and I, as a taxpayer for my entire life almost, I can say our taxes are high. It is not just our taxes. If you put everything that we pay between what comes from the BPU bill, what comes from the UG tax bill, what comes from our schools, what comes from our junior college, that's the cost that has every person who lives here has to put up with to be a resident of Wyandotte County. We should get benefits from every one of them. And I believe that in a lot of ways we do. There are expenses to live in a city. We have our own issues to deal with. But to take upon what we already pay and add to it additional funds that we have to put out to help support a for-profit business.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I don't believe that that is fair to all of the citizens of our county. Remember that many of the license plates I see when I go to the T-Bones games are not Wyandotte County tags. So therefore, we're subsidizing the entertainment for other counties. So I would appreciate it if you would take that in consideration. And I think I've already spoke out before about how I feel about the past due bill and the repayment of it in 100% as a bill that's created should be paid. Thank you very much.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Well, you don't have a neutral here.
Your name, please?
Marcia Rapp.
Thank you.
You don't have a neutral here, so I'm not against baseball. I like baseball, but I like football even better. Maybe we ought to think about turning that field like a lot of pros do, from a baseball field into a football field in the winter. You know, we have very little winter entertainment in Wyandotte County. And if we could somehow find a minor league football team, or the soccer, I think, was even playing there for a while. And if we could find something to do with that field in the winter, maybe put a little, ceiling over the...
Retractable dome?
Yeah, there, a little ceiling over it, so they could sit, but, that would be good. And it's not silly because the pro baseball and football do it. They change their field, put a few goalposts in there and some more markings, and wow, I'm a football fan, really. So, it's just a suggestion that something could be used all year and maybe bring in a little bit more revenue, some incentives, and keep both baseball and maybe add football. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition or neutral? Let the record show no one else is coming forward. So we'll close that portion. I'll start off. I'm, one of the things when we looked at this is I said, if we had an empty stadium, what would we offer to a club to come in and fill our stadium and provide baseball? Let's offer that to the T-Bones. My wireless carrier continually offers to non-customers a half-price deal, but to the existing customers, we keep paying the same. And I thought, well, why don't we just offer our best deal to our good partner, the Ellerts, and to T-Bones in order to keep this moving forward. They have been a great partner for 15 years. They have brought in over 3 million people. If we had originally thought they'd bring in 200,000 people a year, we would have been thrilled with it. And the evaluation we did of all the Northern League contracts, of looking at them, people have and I think others are going to mention this, people have spent a lot more money on stadiums and teams than we have. I think of the Chiefs and the Royals. The Jackson County gave almost $600 million to the Chiefs and the Royals, who are high revenue groups, in order to keep professional football and professional baseball. We gave a 30-year abatement to the NASCAR and $150 million in star bonds to the soccer stadium. So we have been in the public sports business in Wyandotte County, and it has paid huge dividends. All of the star bonds that we've issued out there for NASCAR, for the soccer stadium, for the T-Bones have all paid off. They paid off early, and we're seeing the ongoing benefits of that. We are the #1 tourist attraction in the state and in the region. The Convention and Visitors Bureau says we have over 10 million visitors who come from outside a 50-mile radius. 10 million visitors from outside a 50-mile radius. The T-Bones are a big part of that. And they've been a great catalyst. They were one of our first investors. They invested out there when there was nothing out there. And we've really built the legends and that whole development around them. And if without their initial investment, we would not be where we are now. So I'm excited about it. It is, you know, I feel comfortable with the level of incentive because I do believe the investment yielding a $4+ million return annually with ancillary benefit from the T-Bones is worth the investment. People ask me all the time, are you going to offer an incentive? And I say maybe. You know, what's the return on investment? We're offering an incentive to Amazon. Huge return on investment. We offered incentives to General Motors. Huge return on investment. And we offer retention incentives to our businesses that are expanding and growing. So I think it's a good investment. I do think it's going to bear a positive return to keep the T-Bones here and to continue to play baseball. And it's an additional bonus that we have a great owner who's been committed to this community from day one. So I would move the approval of the contract as written.
Second.
Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo much of what you just said, but I want to thank Mr. Ellert. I want to thank the T-Bones for being one of our very first partners in the Village West area. I remember in that first season sitting up there in the press box and looking out and seeing dirt as far as the eye could see. They were one of our first partners. They've stuck with us. They have been part of the impetus or the incentive for development around them. And even in a down year, they brought 213,000 people to Community America Ballpark, to the Legends, to that side of this wonderful entertainment and attraction area, and I think that is just fantastic. I think it's really important that we remember something that's been said, but I want to emphasize this. The T-Bones is a small business. This is not a multi-billion-dollar, multinational corporation. This is a small business. And I have heard some people say that any investment we might make in the T-Bones is a bailout. No, it's not. I respectfully disagree. It's an investment. It's an investment that I believe pays return every single year we choose to invest it. And frankly, it's not as big as some other communities choose to invest in their sports franchises. And Mr. Ellert, I would never get into this business because it's a wacky business, and I bless your heart for wanting to do it and for doing it well. But there are some challenges in this business that none of us who aren't in it fully appreciate. And I have not fully appreciated until very recently the number of financial challenges, the number of operational challenges that you have met and overcome to keep that team on the field for 15 years in Kansas City, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I look at it as an investment. We are investing in an amenity that improves the quality of life for our citizens. And when quality of life is good, then we start to build a strong community. A strong community is one that grows. A strong community is one that adds tax dollars, that adds taxpayers. You are part of helping to build a strong community, just like all the other businesses that we also offer investment, incentive, whatever you might call it. I am a taxpayer. I have no problem offering this investment for this amenity because I believe it helps grow a much stronger community than we already have. And I actually did take a look. So the T-Bones are in the same league as the St. Paul Saints. And many of us who are interested in civic responsibility and local government performance, look at Minneapolis and St. Paul as kind of a model for how city government really could work for the benefit of the citizens. They do many innovative things. Our current rental licensing ordinance actually is patterned after the city of Minneapolis. So we look to them for examples, and the city of St. Paul just spent $64 million. Now, it wasn't the city, I'm sorry. The Saints Stadium, a $64 million stadium, was completed, I believe it was last year, and the city put up $19.5 million of that construction cost, matched by more than that from the state and some from the Saints. And so I think we have examples, anywhere we look, we have examples of municipalities who choose to invest in an organization that will bring a return on a consistent basis. And so I am perfectly willing to continue making that investment to get that return.
Thank you. Commissioner Markley.
So some of you are probably wondering what's going to come out of my mouth because you may recall I did not want to buy a baseball stadium. But I'm not going to chastise anyone tonight. What I do want to do is clarify, particularly for the public and for those who have concerns similar to Board Member Bryant, what options are really on the table, because the reality is we own this stadium. So there, as far as I can see, is no option on the table where we pay $0, right? Am I right? So if we say no to this deal, we still have to pay taxes on the stadium we own. We still have to pay, I'm guessing, those Legends common area fees and the parking lot something or other fee because we own this stadium. And we're going to have to pay for some level of maintenance for a facility that is in sort of our shining star tourist area. So the two options are we're going to spend tax dollars on a stadium, or we're going to spend tax dollars on a stadium that has an operation running in the stadium, and that operation is going to fund part of those costs. There is no option that results in us paying $0 because we own this facility. So I see, I think a lot of times we see a lot of chatter out on social media, and a lot of the chatter on social media about this is, well, we should just let the T-Bones go away and that'll be the end of it. But the reality is, I'd like to say we didn't buy the stadium because I didn't want to buy it to begin with, but we did. The majority of this commission, moved forward with the purchase of this stadium facility, and we have to vote from where we are today. And where we are today is we're stadium owners, and we're going to pay for it regardless. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I think some of the public has a perception that we're either going to do this contract and pay $150,000 or we're going to pay $0, and the reality is we don't get that choice. We're going to pay either way. It's just a matter of which of the two opportunities our tax dollars go towards. So, clarifying point.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, and I appreciate those comments, Commissioner Merkley, as well. I remember when the Speedway was getting ready to open, and I was so super excited, even though I had never once in my life watched a NASCAR race. But you may remember that Wyandotte County got first dibs at those tickets, and I could not get out to the Woodlands racetrack fast enough with my cash in my hand, pushing people out of the way so that I could be one of the founding pass holders at Kansas Speedway, where I spent a minimum of $700 annual for 2 season tickets to the races. One thing I will say that I have always really appreciated about the T-Bones is that it is so affordable. To this day, it seems it is as affordable as it was in 2002, the first year I went to a game. I'm not aware of a ticket increase. It may have happened. Just last night, my family of 4 ate at a restaurant at the Legends that was not fancy in any way. And it's a beloved restaurant, and we love it there, but we spent $53 eating out at a not fancy restaurant. So could have taken my family to the game for just a little bit more than half that. And I just want to point out what an affordable amenity it is for the community, for people like me, for people with families, people outside this community. as you know, I have said several times, I like to travel. I like to travel fairly close to home. My family likes to travel, and when we get to where we're going, we like to find things we can do that are not expensive. So I see this as that option that we would be looking for if Kansas City, Kansas were our travel destination. I have a question, Mr. Stevens, if you could help me understand briefly. You said as part of this presentation that most of the other stadiums and baseball teams of this size and this kind of league were not structured the way our T-Bones were structured back when the T-Bones first opened. And I can't remember exactly what you said, but basically there was some sort of municipal partnership involved.
Yes, Commissioner Bynum. It's getting to the page here. If you will bear with me for 1 second. Yeah, I mean, several were consistent with the T-Bones agreement, but there were many more that had management or operational agreements, many more where the stadiums were owned by the municipality. And then, as I mentioned before, several do not pay utilities because that is incorporated into the stadium structure of the deal with the original stadium.
Okay, thank you, because that was part of the question. So for the first 12 years of the T-Bones operation up till when we bought them, they were operating as a small business. Unlike many of the other baseball teams in other cities. Okay, and so up until when the unified government purchased the stadium, they really were just paying their employees and paying their light bill and this and that and all of the costs of doing business. Question about the sales tax. If we agree to this, the vendors that are out there would still have their own contracts, right? And so there would still be sales tax collection, is that correct?
Correct.
So there would still be sales tax to gain from keeping the stadium open?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for myself and anybody else who might be watching. As with regard to the utilities, kind of the same thing with the other baseball clubs. If you could speak to that just one more time. Some of those agreements that were made in other areas, not this one, had either no utility fee or a utility agreement built into those management agreements.
Correct, or in some instances, and I don't have all of the stadium agreements in front of me, so I apologize for not having a lot more detail. But many of those agreements, the stadiums are owned by the municipality or by the county or whatever governmental entity, and therefore the utilities are a part and parcel of that ownership.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Walker.
Brian McKiernan stole my remarks and said everything that I was going to say. I don't know how he got a copy of it, but I don't want to prolong this already prolonged meeting, but I think the T-Bones have been a great amenity for this community. I wish we had the continually growing sales tax of Johnson County where we could do some things differently than we have to do, but our people deserve no less, and it's the role of government, in which I include the Board of Public Utilities, to do everything we can to make this community a livable, likable place. And over the years, many years, the BPU and the city, now the unified government, have been partners. Sometimes it's been a little bumpy, but we've done a lot of things together for which this community is deserving. And we've seen the sports out in the village that, I mean, when you go out there on a soccer night, it is unbelievable. We had some friends in, a large group of friends, and we had a little conference that an organization I belong to. They couldn't get a hotel room at the Legends for under $150 a night because they were full up for the weekend with the soccer. This is, you know, could we do, is there a better deal out there? Well, if we get 300,000 or 400,000 people in there, maybe there is. But I think this is an excellent deal. It's between keeping them and losing them, and I want to keep them around for a while longer and enjoy T-Bones games, because being old and retired, I can't afford the Royals anymore.
And finally, Commissioner Philbrook.
Oh, I like that, finally.
It was aspirational.
Yeah, I know. So this makes it very easy because I always love going last because everybody says all the good stuff. And I can just say, I agree with you all, almost all. And I am a small business person and I do pay taxes. And I don't mind paying the taxes that help support a group of people that are so dedicated to bringing something to our community that our kids can really enjoy and we can really enjoy as a family that is affordable, that helps create a bond in a family, believe it or not. I mean, it's amazing what happens when you sit down with your kids and you start talking about a baseball game they were there at, you know, and they just absolutely love it. I also, when I drive by there, I'm always amazed at how many people are out there tailgating before the game, having a good time with their family. And it really makes me feel good about our community. I believe that we are to have a community partner like the T-Bones that gives us, our folks and our family, a place to enjoy baseball in an affordable venue. And that is my statement. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 8-1. That motion carries.
All right, I'd like to add my voice to that positive vote as well. And we have one more item. And that item is the approval of the Hollywood Casino grants. Is there a motion?
Move to approve as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Walker.
The only question I have is going through this, I mean, I don't know if I guess I'm going to ask, has staff vetted whether, for example, I'm not going to name it, but there's one here that gets 5% of what they asked for, another that gets 5%. You go through this list, I'm wondering if this is a good way to spend money where it's below a certain percentage of what they're even asking for. I mean, what are they going to do towards the purpose with $1,000 or 3%? Here's one for 3%. I mean, they got $1,000. They're not even going to come close to their program objectives. I'm just asking the question. I mean, you know, I gave where I wanted to, and I feel like the other commissioners should too. But is it wise of us to allocate that little bit of piddling amount of money to a cause that's not going to even be able to accomplish what they want? It's not even going to be enough to leverage other money. And have we vetted that? Have we asked the one that gets $1,000, do they want the 1,000, and what are they going to do with it?
Commissioner, I would answer that as I don't think the staff has vetted that, but the contract we have with the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, they do make notations in their notes in the summary they send out to all the commissioners.
Well, I noticed one of them got 123%. Now, that's the only one several got 100 and one got 123, and I forget which one it was. But do they need more than 100%? And would it be better to take, It just seems like there's some money that ought to be at some point reappropriated. I mean, I'm fine with the way it is because I appropriated where I wanted to give it, and none of mine got more than 100%. So, and I'm assuming others may, well, whatever. But it doesn't seem a good expenditure to spend 5 or 10% on, or donate 10% of what a group has asked for, because it's going to have to go to administration. It can't accomplish any of its objectives with that.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. I'd like to just address it a little bit since I spread my giving out across a number of organizations, and staff did contact me about this, and I responded. When we first chose to become the allocators of the money, there were comments made more than one time that this was a way to give a smaller group that wouldn't normally have access to grant making on a large scale, smaller amounts of money, and allow them to do something impactful with that money. That is the tactic that I took this year. There were multiple grants of mine that are almost all of my grants are very small amounts of money. Some of those small amounts of money were given to support what I saw other commissioners supporting and adding a little bit to the allocations that they made. And I had a handful where I gave small amounts of money and ended up being possibly the only funder of that organization for a small amount, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. I am the executive director in my other job of a very small nonprofit organization, and I can assure you $1,000 goes a very long way at the small nonprofit I work for. And so
They'll let
I
the
just
record show
wanted
your
to-
nonprofit did not apply.
And my nonprofit did not apply. Just wanted to make the point about the small amounts of money.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to have us a conversation. Commissioner Philbrook.
Oh, no, it's not going to be long. It's basically, I think we're making an assumption that just because we only gave them $1,000, that we might be the only source. And I would suggest that a lot of these groups go out for a lot of grants from a lot of different people. And we have no idea how much they get from other folks, really, after all's said and done. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Walters.
Emmerich, could you review for us the process of what happens from here on out? Specifically, these groups that get $1,000 or $5,000, they have to come back to us and tell us how they spent it and how they used it to achieve the goals of their application. Is that not right?
Yes, they have reports that they have to send back in to the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation for review.
What would happen if somebody says, you know, for $1,000, I really don't want to spend the administrative time required to submit reports because I can't really achieve the goals of my organization? Do they have the opportunity to just decline, and what would happen under that circumstance?
This is my first year in the program, so I haven't been to that point yet. Joe, can you speak to that for a moment?
So when somebody that we've given grant money to gives their money back, it's happened 2 or 3 times. We go back to the commissioner that allocated those funds and give them the opportunity to reallocate. So, yeah, that's what we do.
I will just note, when we were not personally involved in the allocations, the committee that did distribute the money took the opposite approach that we are taking. They funded 100%. They ranked the applications and then funded them 100% until they ran out of money. They didn't do partial funding until they didn't have enough money to satisfy the lowest ranked submission. So we have 2 completely different approaches. I don't know which one's best, but it would be good to kind of monitor this year to see if $1,000 or $5,000 or $8,000 is a meaningful way to move the needle on some of these issues. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt as written. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
We do not have many opportunities to make it clear to 11 o'clock. We are out of agenda items, but we're welcome to stay and hold hands and sing some songs if the commission would like. I'll take that as an adjournment. We are adjourned.